Under a brilliant blue sky, a desperate cry echoes through the forest leaves as a hidden struggle begins. Loria Rohan, a noble young lady with striking silver hair and piercing blue eyes, lies on the grass in deep despair. Frustrated and throwing a tantrum, the young silver-haired girl laments her inability to unlock her beast transformation. In this society, powerful beastmen of a hybrid race reign supreme, flaunting their magnificent animal traits. High society gathers at lavish balls where nobles proudly display their elegant horns, ears, and beastly heritages. While others easily manifest their animal forms, Loria can only hold a simple rabbit in her hands. Modern beastmen typically retain their dominant human appearance, sporting only subtle traits like ears or tails. Clutching the white rabbit, she stares blankly into the distance, overwhelmed by her apparent lack of power. She covers her face in deep frustration, unable to accept her status as the family's only powerless member. Memories of cruel whispers and malicious gossip at high society banquets flash through her mind, fueling her resolve to change. Resting in the quiet meadow, she desperately wishes for just a simple pair of ears or a tail to prove her worth. Suddenly, her bright blue eyes snap open with newfound determination as she refuses to give up. Pressing her hand firmly against the grass, she decides to gather her courage and attempt the transformation one more time. She closes her eyes, clearing her mind of all doubts to focus her internal energy. With intense focus, this silver-haired girl directs every ounce of her concentration into the spell. Her long silver hair lifts into the air, swirling dynamically as the surge of magic intensifies. A blinding vortex of blue magical energy erupts around Loria, lifting her into the air as her power finally awakens. A massive, fluffy white paw steps onto the green grass as Loria experiences a sudden, sharp headache. She quickly learns that invoking such potent magic comes with an unexpected physical toll. Reaching up to scratch her head, she feels an intense, strange itch where her ears should be. Feeling fluffy white ears atop her head, she realizes with excitement that her spell might have actually succeeded. Suddenly, an eerie darkness settles over the meadow, replacing her joy with sudden confusion. Confused thoughts race through her mind as she tries to comprehend the bizarre sensation taking over her body. A nearby rabbit gently taps a small, adorable white baby fox that has suddenly appeared on the grass. The tiny white creature sweats in pure shock, realizing something has gone terribly wrong with her transformation. But realization hits all three forest creatures at once, sending them into a state of absolute panic. Staring blankly at her surroundings, the white baby fox is gripped by disbelief at her current state. She remembers that modern beastmen are never supposed to fully revert into complete beasts, making her situation unprecedented. Panic intensifies as she imagines her noble family coddling her like a helpless household pet if they find her like this. Squeezing her eyes shut, the tiny fox squeaks desperately, trying to force her body to change back. Her squeaks echo fruitlessly into the vast sky as her magic fails to trigger a reversal. Night falls over the woods, leaving the tiny, helpless white fox sitting alone under the starlight, unable to regain her human form. The darkness grows heavier as she struggles to find a way out of her magical predicament. A wave of absolute dread washes over her as she remembers that her carriage is parked miles away. Tears well up in the tiny fox's blue eyes as she realizes she is completely stranded and helpless. Suddenly, a massive shadow looms overhead as a giant boot steps onto the grass right beside her. Before she can run, a large hand reaches down and firmly grabs the startled white fox by the scruff of her neck. A mysterious, dark-haired man lifts her up to his face, curiously observing the tiny, crying creature. Enraged by her capture, the tiny white fox bares her teeth and growls fiercely at the intruder. The dark-haired man stands under the moonlight, his glowing golden eyes locking onto the captured little fox. His striking yellow eyes narrow with amusement as he studies the feisty creature in his hand. The furious little fox bites his finger, refusing to let this arrogant stranger look down on her or her family. In a world where power dictates destiny, a helpless little fox is about to find herself at the mercy of the Empire's most dangerous man. Staring down at his captive, Xenox Classium contemplates the feisty creature before casually slipping her inside his coat pocket, leaving her completely stunned. Snuggled tightly in his dark blue pocket, the terrified little fox panics as her captor announces they are heading to his estate, making her instantly fear she is being abducted. Despite her furious squeaks and silent demands to be released, Xenox carries her away into the dark night, beginning an unbelievable 6-month cohabitation. Loria Rowan stands outside a quaint cafe, never imagining how drastically her life is about to change. The gentle chime of a doorbell rings out as she enters the establishment to face her arranged marriage partner. But as she steps inside the room, her eyes widen in absolute disbelief at the man waiting for her. Standing there in his regal attire is none other than her supposed kidnapper himself, Xenox Classium. Destiny plays a cruel trick as she realizes her former captor is her arranged marriage partner. Panic seizes her as she desperately wonders why this terrifying man is standing right in front of her. Xenox calmly breaks the silence, noting how abrupt this arranged marriage agreement was. Laria's mind races in sheer terror, cursing her luck that her future husband is Xenox of all people. The two sit in tense silence at a small table, a heavy atmosphere settling over the room. Attempting to play dumb, she nervously introduces herself as Loria Rohan to confirm his identity. She forces a shaky, polite smile, praying he doesn't recognize her as the little fox he held captive. A sharp gaze of realization flashes through her eyes as she notices something dangerous nearby. On the table sits his highly detailed search flyer, offering a reward for his beloved missing white fox, Shiro. Under his roof, Loria in her fox form was treated with surprising tenderness, his gentle hand stroking her fluffy white ears. Xenox murmured softly, amused by the tiny fox's complete lack of fear in his presence. He spent quiet evenings sitting on his sofa, gently cradling and petting the little white creature. Though she acted tough and feigned annoyance, the pampered little fox secretly melted under his warm touch. Xenox pointed out her contented expression, revealing a rare, soft smile on his usually cold face. As the rain poured outside, he contentedly stroked her soft fur, finding peace in her silent company. That peaceful warmth soon gave way to an intense, burning passion that she never saw coming. Holding her close, Xenox pleaded with the little fox to promise she would never leave his side. Staring into his golden eyes, the gravity of his deep obsession sent a shiver down her spine. Outside, the storm rages, mirroring the rising tension within the quiet cafe room. Startled back to reality, Loria accidentally spills her tea all over herself and the table. Xenox calls her name in concern as she gasps in embarrassment at her sudden clumsiness. She panics, realizing that they are supposed to be having a formal matchmaking session, not a comedy show. She frantically apologizes for letting the rain ruin the search poster, but Xenox gently reassures her and tells her to dry it off. Looking at his calm demeanor, she lets out a silent sigh of relief that her identity remains safe for now. She sweetly suggests they restart their meeting from the beginning, formally asking for his name. He obliges, introducing himself with his legendary name, Xenox Classium. Her eyes widen as she remembers the terrifying truth behind the noble family he leads. He is the heir to the feared Black Wolf lineage, a bloodline renowned for its unmatched ferocity. As the head of the Empire's only Duke family, his power and influence are absolute. Underneath his refined, handsome exterior lies a beast of pure devastation. Legends say his bloodline only finds purpose in brutal battle, earning him the terrifying title of the Beastman Eater. He is a ruthless warrior forged in blood, far more dangerous than anyone could possibly comprehend. Yet Loria quietly sips her tea, knowing she has seen a side of this ruthless monster that no one else ever has. But her heart stops cold when Xenox suddenly looks up and asks if she belongs to the White Fox clan. Loria holds her tea tightly, internally panicking as she realizes Xenox arranged this marriage meeting to gather intelligence on her family. To deflect his suspicion, she innocence checks him by asking if he is referring to the Crown Prince instead. Xenox frowns deeply at her clueless response, his cold gaze narrowing with suspicion. Chilling silence fills the air as he bluntly declares that he has absolutely no intention of marrying anyone yet. Loria quickly agrees with him, but her relief is instantly shattered when Xenox mentions her ties to the White Fox clan. The bombshell drops as Xenox compares her directly to his beloved missing pet Shiro, sending Loria into a choking fit. Memories of the search flyers plastered all over the imperial capital flash before her eyes, proving how relentless his search has been. Holding the crumpled poster, she forces a shaky smile and comments on how deeply he must cherish this lost creature. Xenox crosses his arms in response, his stoic demeanor betraying a quiet, dangerous intensity. She tries to maintain her composure, offering a polite but strained confirmation of his word. His yellow eyes burn with absolute obsession as he vows to find his lost pet at all costs. Suddenly, the heavy atmosphere is shattered as a frantic voice calls out for the Duke. A guard bursts into the room, ecstatically announcing that Shiro has finally been located. Stunned by the news, Loria panics internally while Xenox immediately commands his men to prepare for departure. Left completely alone at the table, Loria sweat drops in absolute excitement and bewilderment, wondering who on earth they actually found if she is the real Shiro. She clears her throat awkwardly, recovering her composure in the now empty room. Seizing the perfect opportunity, she makes a swift exit from the cafe, deeply relieved to have survived the encounter. Stepping out into the rainy street, she sighs in immense relief, thanking her lucky stars she was not caught. She scans the street warily to make absolutely sure no one is tailing her. Reaching into her collar, she pulls out a brilliant blue glowing magic crystal necklace. The powerful artifact floats in the air, glowing with ancient mystical runes. Glowing symbols pulse with intense magical energy as the dormant power begins to awaken. Shrouded in a brilliant blue aura, Loria floats upward as the immense spell starts to consume her. Squeezing her eyes shut, she braces herself for the rush of magical power flowing through her body. Her stunning blue eyes snap open, shining with renewed magical force. With her long silver hair billowing majestically, she readies her mind for what comes next. Elsewhere, a dark-haired man with braided locks lets out a knowing smirk as he senses her arrival. Standing before a roaring fireplace, the purple-haired man welcomes her warmly, noting how long it has been. He is revealed to be Soulike, an enigmatic beastman of the Raven clan sporting an eye patch and a golden bird on his shoulder. Soleik drops a warning, revealing that Duke Classium has already noticed someone sniffing around his affairs. Laria gasps in sheer terror at the revelation that her secret investigation might be compromised. Grasping her skirt tightly, she reflects on how she continued to secretly investigate Xenox even after her escape. She remembers the tragic, mysterious fire that devastated the Classium estate 3 years ago. An intruder had infiltrated the burning mansion on that fateful night, causing absolute chaos. Their ultimate target was the Classium family heirloom, a powerful artifact capable of awakening her as a wizard. Desperate for answers, she asks Soleik if his information is truly reliable, prompting an offended reaction from him. Soleik snaps back dramatically, accusing her of doubting him despite the immense danger he faces for her sake. He reminds her that his high-risk mission is solely to help her retrieve the stolen heirloom. Poking her cheek, Soleik warns her that the culprits are still at large and could bring ruin to her entire family if they are not careful. Suddenly, the memory shifts as Loria finds her hand firmly grasped by a black-gloved hand in the pouring rain, her fox ears popping out in panic. Xenox stands before her in the downpour, calling her name as he holds her tightly. Xenox's brilliant golden eyes stare deeply into hers, filled with a raw, desperate emotion. Terrified of her secret being exposed, Loria can only plead with him in a trembling voice. He pulls her close against his chest under the blooming pink flowers, completely refusing to let her go. Surrounded by a whirlwind of confusion and passion, she desperately wonders what on earth is happening to her life. Caught in a sudden downpour, Loria stands frozen as Xenox pulls her close, his yellow eyes locking onto her. Her heart races in absolute panic as she tries to process this terrifyingly close encounter. Under the pouring rain, she desperately wonders how she ended up in this chaotic situation. The scene shifts back to the quiet, rainy night outside the bustling streets. Earlier that evening, she was simply planning a quick shopping trip to buy some gems. Walking under her purple umbrella, she deeply regrets not heading straight home instead. Suddenly, her bright blue eyes widen in sheer shock at a sudden sight. She comes to a complete halt in the middle of the dark, rain-slick street. Slumped against a dark wall in the alley lies a heavily bleeding injured man. She gasps in horror as she recognizes the wounded warrior as none other than Xenox himself. The dangerous Duke remains slumped, blood soaking his pristine dark uniform. Staring at him, she frantically questions why the powerful Beastman eater is lying helpless in an alleyway. In her sudden panic, she completely forgets to hide her fluffy white fox ears. Stepping forward, she holds her purple umbrella over his slumped figure to shield him from the storm. Sensing someone's presence, the injured Duke slowly raises his head, looking up in confusion. His piercing yellow eyes snap open, reflecting a sudden flash of recognition. Staring at her, Xenox weakly mutters the name of his beloved missing pet, Shiro. Laria panics instantly, quickly stammering out a formal greeting to cover her true identity. Xenox stares at her in quiet, intense silence, analyzing her every movement. Recognizing her as a noblewoman, he addresses her formally as Lady Rohan, forcing her to frantically clutch her ears. He gently asks if she is unharmed, ignoring his own severe injuries. Seeing him drenched in blood, Loria frantically scolds him for worrying about her instead of himself. He calmly explains the blood is not his, sending a wave of sheer terror through Loria. She stares at him with wide blue eyes, realizing the terrifying implication of his words. Despite her fear, she decides she cannot simply abandon a bleeding man in the middle of a storm. She remembers how Xenox always overreacted to the tiniest injuries back when she was his pampered pet fox. She nervously offers it to him, planning to make a swift escape the moment he accepts it. Xenox slowly rises to his feet, looming over her with an intimidating stoic presence. He reaches out his dark-gloved hand to take the handkerchief from her grasp. But instead of taking the cloth, he suddenly grabs her wrist with an iron grip. Stunned by the sudden physical contact, Laria nervously asks him what is wrong. Xenox clenches his jaw, looking away in deep, quiet contemplation. Cold rain splashes around them as he struggles to find the right words. Loria looks at him, internally wondering if the ruthless Duke has somehow lost his mind. She desperately tries to suppress her Beastman traits, terrified that her ears and tail will completely expose her. Xenox watches her silently as she clumsily tries to cover her head. Realizing he might have seen her ears, she forces a fake smile and awkwardly tries to say goodbye. She turns to leave, but the injured Duke stumbles forward, letting his umbrella fall into the puddles. Looking at her with a gentle, rare smile, he softly offers his sincere gratitude. His unexpected warmth catches her completely off guard, sending a jolt through her heart. A flood of bittersweet memories returns, reminding her of the tender care she received at his mansion. She remembers the genuine, soft smiles he only reserved for his beloved white fox. Her heart aches as Xenox suddenly approaches her, quietly asking for a desperate favor. He reaches out and firmly grasps her hand, calling her by her noble title, Lady Rohan. Looking deeply into her eyes, he begs her to help him find his lost pet, Shiro. Her heart drops as she frantically wonders if the dangerous Duke already suspects her true identity. Forcing a shaky smile, she desperately tries to stay calm, knowing one wrong move could seal her fate forever.
Under the heavy downpour, Xenox lets out a dark, blood-chilling smirk that sends shivers down her spine.
She nervously reflects on how beastmen naturally retain wild, beastly instincts like sleeping in den-like quarters and craving raw meat. Looking down at her, Xenox offers a massive, irresistible reward if she agrees to help him find his pet. Enticed by thoughts of priceless jewels and endless gold, her eyes sparkle in pure greed and shock. She suddenly realizes the real, underlying reason behind Xenox's relentless search for her. She knows he wants to reclaim his family's lost magical artifact, which she deeply wishes she could return. He explains that a false hostage threat was used to bait him, but it was not the real Shiro. She remains frozen as his heavy, black-gloved hand firmly clasps her delicate fingers. A dark looming memory of 3 shadowy noble figures flashes in her mind, raising the stakes. Terrified of the physical intimacy, she gently slips her hand out of his firm grip. Xenox calmly mentions that he must also begin preparing for his upcoming wedding. He touches his chin in deep contemplation, pondering if he really has enough time. Towering over her, he finally relents and agrees to give her some space. Smiling gently, he promises to ask for her assistance again when she is completely free. She awkwardly laughs off his persistence, sweating profusely as she tries to play along. She maintains a tense, polite smile, praying he will finally let her walk away. Though his gentle smile deeply unnerves her, she desperately tries to brush off her growing dread. She laments that she would soon be forced into having far too much free time. The scene shifts to the polished corridors of the palace as elegant footsteps echo. A handsome blonde-haired noble rests his cheek on his gloved hand with an amused expression. He welcomes the visitor, noting how unexpected it is to receive such a sudden guest. He is revealed to be Crown Prince Ishuil of the Golden Deer tribe within the Flandel Empire. Xenox declares this meeting to be destiny, prompting a confused, chibi-styled Ishuil to ask what he wants. A sinister, knowing smirk plays on the lips of the plotting Nobu.
Surrounded by brilliant sparkles, Xenox flashes an incredibly warm, handsome smile.
Under a starry night sky, the magnificent Rohan family estate stands illuminated in quiet elegance. Inside her room, Loria gasps in utter shock at the sudden arrival of an unexpected guest. A refined man at the doorway questions her exaggerated, shocked reaction to his presence. The visitor is revealed to be her older brother Helden Rohan, a serpent beastman working as the royal doctor. Surrounded by her worried servants, Loria stands frozen as her brother stares her down. She panics and frantically asks if he was fired from his prestigious royal post. He dismisses her ridiculous worries, letting out a sharp sigh as a maid holds her dress. She narrows her sharp blue eyes, trying to gauge her brother's true motives. Adjusting his spectacles, Helden realizes she recently attended a matchmaking event, throwing the servants into absolute chaos. Furious, her brother demands to know if their parents forced her to go or if she suddenly wanted to marry. Trembling under his intense gaze, she nervously confesses that she met Duke Xenox Classium. Helden explodes in pure rage, cursing the crown prince for setting up such a dangerous arrangement. Loria is left utterly stunned to hear her refined brother call the crown prince a crazy bastard. Surrounded by a dark, murderous aura, Helden vows to assassinate Xenox, ignoring her warnings about treason. She sweat drops, silently noting that Xenox's terrible reputation puts him at a massive disadvantage. She reflects on the deep, historic blood feud between the hostile wolf and fox clans. Pinching the bridge of his nose, Helden sighs over the crown prince's baffling and unpredictable decisions. He orders her to stay completely away from the Duke, a demand she gladly and eagerly accepts. She passionately declares that she will never marry a man who is so hopelessly obsessed with his lost pet. Having made her decision, she confidently strides down the elegant corridors of her family mansion. She assures herself that Xenox could never discover her secret identity as his lost fox. But her relief is instantly shattered when a mysterious letter addressed to her suddenly arrives. The official document summons Loria to another unexpected meeting with high society. The letter demands her attendance, leaving her with no choice but to comply. She loses all composure upon reading that Crown Prince Ishiel and Duke Xenox Classium are behind this sudden summons. An outraged scream echoes throughout the Grand Rohan estate as chaos erupts over the letter. Her servants gently brush her silky silver hair to prepare her for the grand event. Standing in her elegant blue gown, Loria remains quiet as her maids finish dressing her. One of her loyal maids breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by fear for her mistress. The servants weep openly, deeply pitying Loria's tragic fate of meeting the terrifying Duke. Loria turns around in confusion, telling her overly dramatic maids that she is not going to die. The trembling maid desperately warns Loria about the Duke's terrifying reputation as a ruthless beastman eater. The maids gossip about the Duke's violent personality and wild rumors of his absolute madness. The servants panic over rumors of rabies, leaving a sweat-dropping Loria completely speechless. Loria awkwardly defends the Duke, claiming he is merely strange rather than completely insane. The maids narrow their eyes in deep suspicion as Loria mentions the Duke's softer side. Sensing their intense gazes, Loria nervously asks her servants if something is on her face. The tearful maids squeeze Loria tightly, lamenting her tragic innocence while she stands frozen. The heavy gates of the Rohan estate open, signaling the arrival of her escort. Wearing her finest attire, Laria walks down the steps toward the waiting royal carriage. A tall man adorned in a crimson cape waits by the carriage, his presence commanding. Laria takes a deep breath, mentally preparing herself for the tense encounter ahead. Her piercing blue eyes snap open as she prepares to face the mysterious guest. To her absolute shock, the brown-haired Duke Xenox Clausium stands before her, calling her name. Duke Xenox formally announces he has come to escort her by order of the Crown Prince. The Duke gentlemanly guides Laria toward the luxurious carriage waiting to whisk them away. Laria bites her finger in anxiety, realizing that no magical jewel can shield her from danger. She suddenly turns her head, gasping in sheer shock as she realizes his true intentions. A piercing gold eye narrows, silently analyzing her every move from the shadows. The terrifying Duke surprises her by flashing an incredibly warm and gentle smile. Her heart races in sheer panic under his intense, unexpectedly sweet gaze. In a brief moment of confusion, she awkwardly asks him what is wrong. Back at the estate, her horned Beastman servant trembles and weeps in absolute terror. The fearful servants watch in horror as the carriage departs, praying for their lady's survival. Inside the carriage, Laria admits she never expected a summons from the Crown Prince. She explains her assumption that the dude himself had called off their arranged matchmaking. Duke Xenox explains his recent absence from court, noting the palace must have misunderstood their relationship. She tries to break the tension by awkwardly asking about his well-known obsession with foxes. A slow, knowing smirk creeps across the Duke's handsome face, raising the stakes. Surrounded by brilliant roses, he softly confirms his deep, obsessive affection for his pet. Laria freezes in absolute horror, realizing she is trapped in a carriage with their former captor. With a mesmerizing smile, Duke Xenox reassures her of his love, leaving her completely defenseless. Trapped in a high-stakes carriage ride with a dangerous beastman, Laria's mind races as she tries to hide her mounting panic. She nervously reflects on his unsettling words about replacing his beloved lost pet with another fox. With a cold, resolute gaze, Xenox asserts that his beloved Shiro can never be replaced by anyone else. Terrified that her secret is on the line, she remembers the threat to his precious family heirloom. Looking out the carriage window, Laria desperately tries to maintain her composure under his intense pressure. She realizes that a single mistake will expose her hidden Beastman identity and seal her doom. Clutching her elegant blue gown, she silently prays that he never uncovers the truth. Xenox sits in silence across from her, his piercing yellow eyes tracking her every movement. He cryptically hints that his relentless search is finally nearing its ultimate end. He shifts his gaze, leaving a heavy, suffocating silence hanging inside the carriage. Leaning dangerously close, he drops a bombshell, claiming he has already cornered his target. Trembling with fear, Laria carefully asks if he has uncovered a concrete lead on his lost fox. Xenox responds coolly, leaving her completely on edge as he plans his next move. She frantically analyzes their past encounters, wondering if she accidentally left any incriminating clues behind. The dark, quiet profile of the Duke hints at a mind calculating every possible outcome. She recalls how oblivious everyone seemed to her true identity during their prior meetings. She reassures herself that white foxes are common enough to keep her safe from suspicion. Knowing that her own family is unaware of her shape-shifting abilities keeps her hope alive. Still, she hesitates, debating whether she should probe deeper into his investigation. Xenox suddenly cuts through her thoughts, politely asking if she feels uncomfortable in any way. Flustered, she quickly waves her hands and reassures him that the carriage ride is perfectly fine. A surprisingly warm, gentle smile returns to his face, cutting through the frosty tension. His unexpectedly kind demeanor triggers a rush of fond, bittersweet memories in Laria's mind. She recalls his true nature, remembering him as someone who gave everything to those he cared about. In her memories, she pictures herself as the spoiled, pampered white fox she used to be. She remembers quiet afternoons when Xenox would read peacefully with his small fox curled up nearby. Flashbacks of him watering plants and playfully entertaining her show a softer side of the ruthless Duke. Holding his beloved pet gently in his arms, his kindness was always boundless. She recalls looking up at him with absolute trust and affection during those peaceful days. She remembers him standing in the kitchen, meticulously preparing warm meals just for her. He would even sweat over a hot stove just to make sure she was well fed and happy. Laria smiles softly, knowing society would be shocked to see the terrifying Duke performing such domestic tasks. The carriage finally rolls up to the majestic gates of the Grand Imperial Palace. Standing at the destination, Xenox extends his hand to help her step down onto the cobblestone path. Xenox reassures her that he will handle the Imperial audience and protect her from any trouble. Relieved, Laria closes her eyes and sincerely thanks him for his unexpected protection. Her relief turns to confusion as he brings up an unexpected matter concerning her schedule. He casually inquires about her upcoming wedding, catching her completely off guard. She awkwardly confirms the rumor, expressing her regret that wedding preparations prevent her from offering more help. He smiles gently, advising her to put aside her worries and focus entirely on their current audience. Sunlight bathes the towering spires of the imperial palace as they prepare to enter. Walking through the luxurious courtyard, Loria is left completely breathless by the majestic sights. She spots a massive, shimmering, magical barrier enveloping the entire palace grounds in a protective glow. Stepping forward, she wonders how many magical resources were required to maintain such a colossal defensive spell. Suddenly, a violent, unseen shockwave of magical pressure slams directly into her body. Gasps of pain escape her lips as she trembles violently under the oppressive aura. Staring down at her shaking hand, she struggles to comprehend the terrifying sensation overtaking her senses. Sensing her sudden distress, Xenox glances back with the sharp, suspicious golden-eyed glare that raises the stakes. Stepping into the lavishly decorated hall, she finds herself face-to-face with the glittering, blonde-haired Crown Prince. Crown Prince greets her with a dazzling, friendly smile that does little to ease her underlying anxiety. Curtsying gracefully in her elegant blue gown, Loria politely introduces herself to the high-ranking royal. The Crown Prince notes her identity with a smile, playfully pointing out that she bears no resemblance to her brother, Herden. They take their seats at a massive dining table overflowing with an assortment of exquisite tea and pastries. Sipping his tea, the prince admits his utter surprise that the emperor unexpectedly summoned Xenox to the capital. Loria anxiously recalls her own shock at the summons, silently pleading for Xenox to return to her side quickly. Setting his cup down with a soft click, the prince prepares to lay out his true motives. A knowing smile crosses the prince's lips as he casually suggested it's time to finalize their wedding date. Sweating profusely behind his towering shoulder, Loria awkwardly questions what date he is actually referring to. The Crown Prince looks back at her with genuine bewilderment, wondering what else she could possibly mean. He bluntly clarifies that he is talking about their impending wedding, dropping a massive bombshell on her. Loria's eyes widen in sheer horror as the terrifying reality of his words sinks in. Escaping the tense room, she wanders down the Grand Palace hallway to process the shocking turn of events. But clutching her chest, she desperately questions if she is truly forced to go through with this political marriage. She recalls the prince eagerly offering wedding gifts and debating if the ceremony should be held at the Classium estate. The prince boasts that letters announcing the marriage have already been dispatched to every prominent noble household. Leaning against the cold palace wall, she exhales a heavy sigh of absolute despair. Suddenly, the dark-haired Xenox approaches her in the corridor, startling her out of her gloomy thoughts. Seeing her state of distress, Xenox gently urges her to calm down and catch her breath. He suggests moving their conversation elsewhere, noting that the hallway is far too busy for private matters. The scene transitions to the lush, quiet palace courtyard as they seek privacy. Walking side by side, Xenox explains that despite his attempts to clarify their status, the Emperor remains convinced of their marriage. Shaking her head vigorously, Loria reassures him that he has absolutely no reason to apologize. She notes that the pushy Crown Prince is the one forcing this wedding, especially since the imperial letters have already gone out. The official imperial seal on the letters makes the marriage agreement virtually impossible to undo. Xenox reasons that the crown's actions are purely political, born of a complex mixture of favor and wary caution toward him. The powerful Classium family holds immense wealth bolstered by Xenox's royal lineage from a princess mother. In stark contrast, the Rohan family possesses a hollow title with absolutely no wealth or political influence. She realizes that marrying someone of her low standing would only result in a massive loss for Xenox. The union is designed to pressure the Classium family while fulfilling the crown's dream of racial reconciliation. This strategic alliance aims to bring permanent peace and reconciliation between the wolf and fox races. Loria realizes both political agendas have combined, trapping them in this elaborate trap. She envisions her white-haired brother, Herden, furiously growling and threatening to start a rebellion over the news. Terrified of the potential chaos, Loria nervously wonders if she should actually provoke Herden into rebelling. Xenox suddenly breaks her train of thought, proposing they start with an engagement instead of a wedding. Loria stares at him in complete shock, totally unprepared for his sudden suggestion. He explains that a fake engagement will buy them time before they quietly call it off later. Xenox promises to fully compensate her for her troubles, taking the blame for the inconvenient situation. Loria remains highly skeptical, questioning the sanity of getting engaged solely to cancel it later. To seal the deal, Xenox casually promises to send her a shipment of precious gemstones every single month. He offers her any type and size of jewels she desires, leaving her completely stunned. He reiterates his promise to deliver the valuable gems continuously for the entire duration of their engagement. She hesitates, thinking the offer is too generous, but the temptation of the shimmering wealth is undeniable. Xenox delivers the ultimate bait, promising her an entire diamond mine once the engagement is successfully canceled. Completely won over, a star-eyed Loria asks if they can get engaged twice, which he humorously agrees to. With a massive diamond mine on the line, Loria enthusiastically vows to do her absolute best for this fake engagement. As their carriage rattles to a sudden halt, she whispers her gratitude, completely unaware of the storm about to erupt. Stepping out in her flower-adorned blue shoe, she warns that they must keep their secret safe from her parents to avoid absolute chaos. His armored hand firmly grasps hers as he advises checking the situation carefully before making any moves. Standing by the carriage, the dark-haired man urges her to align their stories, but a sudden shout of her name shatters the peace. Palace doors burst open with explosive force as her furious parents suddenly arrive, screaming her name in sheer panic. The silver-haired mother demands an explanation, completely shocked by the sudden news of her daughter marrying the terrifying Duke. Inside the parlor, the atmosphere is incredibly tense as tea and sweet pastries are served to the unexpected guests. Sitting opposite her parents, the dark-haired Duke introduces himself formally, raising the stakes in the quiet room. The silver-haired girl sweats profusely, terrified that her mother might have actually poisoned the tea. Her mother demands a direct explanation from the Duke regarding the sudden marriage arrangement. The formidable northern sea serpent Samara Rohan sips her tea with an icy, menacing smile that radiates pure fury. Dark-haired Duke defends himself, claiming they were also left completely in the dark about the Emperor's sudden letter. Looking at her mother, the silver-haired girl desperately hopes they can chalk this up to a massive misunderstanding. Her father tries to ease the tension, explaining how deeply shocked they were by the sudden royal decree. Her white-haired father, Theodore Rohan, stands revealed as a member of the proud White Fox clan. The dark-haired Duke drops a bombshell, confirming that he is indeed in a serious relationship with Loria. Her parents are left utterly speechless as the Duke proposes starting with an engagement instead of an immediate wedding. Her mother erupts in fury, suspecting that the Duke is forcing her beloved daughter into this union. The Duke remains silent, enduring the mother's intense hostile glare as the tension in the room reaches a boiling point. Laria panics, realizing that if this fake engagement falls apart, both she and Xenox will be in grave danger. Trapped with no other option, the silver-haired girl prepares to take a massive gamble to save them both. She begs for her mother's forgiveness as she prepares to launch her desperate, fabricated story. Reaching out in desperation, she grabs a tight hold of the Duke's red sleeve. She buries her face against his chest, committing fully to her dramatic performance. Dark-haired Duke is caught completely off guard, his golden eyes widening in absolute shock. She looks up with a bright, blushing smile, declaring their passionate love to her stunned parents. She doubles down on her lies, claiming that their romance was a passionate love at first sight. Clinging tightly to his arm, she puts on a dazzling show of affection while the Duke stands frozen in disbelief. Continuing her dramatic performance, she proclaims her undying love to convince her skeptical mother. Her parents stare in stunned silence, completely unable to process their daughter's sudden declaration. Her mother demands to know exactly what makes this imposing Duke so incredibly attractive to her. Smiling warmly at him, she prepares to list the virtues of her fake fiancé. She reflects on his true nature, remembering how gentle and humble he truly is beneath his terrifying reputation. She recalls her days as a little white fox, remembering how perfectly he understood her every gesture. Memories of him holding her safely in his arms through a heavy storm flood her mind. She remembers his boundless kindness, recalling the quiet moments he spent caring for his beloved pet. Looking at him with genuine warmth, she confesses that his gentle heart is the true reason she fell in love. The dark-haired Duke stares back at her, his golden eyes softening as her words strike a deep chord. Meanwhile, her parents remain hilariously hostile, internally calling him a Beastman brute. Exhausted from her massive performance, the silver-haired girl collapses onto her bed with a heavy sigh of relief. She stares at the ceiling, fully aware of her parents' deep-seated hatred for the Duke. She wonders why her family views the Duke as such a terrifying monster when she knows his true gentle nature. She knows that without her prior experiences with him, she would have also misunderstood the Duke. Her mind drifts back to the night she first awoke in his mansion, confused and trapped in her Beastman form. Remembering her panic, she recalls realizing she was still a white fox resting against a warm human chest. Looking at his powerful hand, she recalls her initial confusion about our mysterious caretaker's identity. A butler enters the memory, explaining how he rescued the small fox, leaving her completely outraged at her undignified rescue. A cold, dismissive command echoes through the mansion to throw the helpless creature away like garbage. Suspended helplessly in midair, the small white fox beastman realizes her undignified rescue is turning into a total nightmare. Overcome with absolute rage, she silently fumes at the sheer absurdity of being brought here just to be locked up. High above the grand moonlit castle, the butler suggests terrible names for her, while she internally rejects them with pure disgust. Scrubbed and cleaned in a warm soapy bath, she resolves to endure this humiliation until she can regain her human form. Days pass in an agonizing blur, yet her attempts to transform back or communicate her true identity remain completely futile. Her desperate attempt to leave ink-stained paw prints on a letter is completely misunderstood by the doting butler as a cute trick. Determined to break through the communication barrier, the small white fox attempts to construct a message using the written texts. Every single physical cue and dramatic gesture she tries only ends in a series of hilariously tragic failures. Defeated and utterly exhausted, the small white fox buries her face in the blankets, crying tears of quiet desperation. Clutching the sheets, she shudders as she realizes that adapting to life as a wild animal is becoming dangerously easy. The terrifying realization that she is slowly forgetting her own human identity sends a chill down her spine. Believing the distant master has absolutely no interest in her, she sneaks down the quiet corridor to plan her escape. Terrified by the sudden clatter, the little white fox's eyes widen as she sweats in sheer panic. Creeping forward with trembling paws, she nervously wonders if a dangerous intruder has breached the mansion walls. Stepping into the moonlit hallway, she is shocked to spot the dark-haired Duke standing alone, holding a gleaming sword. Watching his hand tightly grip the cold hilt, she wonders in utter disbelief if he is destroying his own home. Staring at the back of his head, she becomes utterly convinced that her terrifying caretaker has completely lost his mind. The dark-haired Duke suddenly whips around with blazing golden eyes, prompting the terrified fox to turn and flee for her life. But before she can run, his heavy footsteps halt as he suddenly stumbles, dropping his sword to the floor with a loud clang. To her absolute shock, the formidable dark-haired Duke suddenly collapses face first onto the ground amidst shattered porcelain. Peeking cautiously from behind a wall, the little white fox stares in complete bewilderment at the fallen master. Overcoming her fear, the small white fox slowly approaches the motionless body of the dark-haired Duke. She gently nudges his cheek with her small paw, desperately checking to see if he is actually dead. Breathing a massive sigh of relief, she realizes that he is simply unconscious and has suffered no visible injuries. Looking toward the exit, she hesitates, contemplating whether she should seize this perfect opportunity to leave him behind. She stands at the edge of his bed, unable to bring herself to abandon the vulnerable man in his hour of need. Deciding there is no other option, the small white fox leaps onto his chest, determined to keep him safe and warm. This single act of kindness changes everything, sparking a deep, inseparable bond between her and the quiet Duke. Back in the present, human Loria contemplates the sudden fake engagement proposal, wondering if it can truly save them. She examines her hand, well aware that she can no longer transform back into her Beastman form to prove her past. Knowing he would never believe her true identity, she realizes that keeping her secret safe is her only option. Lying awake in her dark bedroom, she desperately hopes this massive lie is truly for the best. The scene shifts to the quiet grand estate as a sudden aggressive pounding shatters the calm night air. Hurried footsteps echo rapidly down the corridor as someone rushes to address the sudden frantic disturbance. The heavy doors burst open as her silver-haired brother Herden demands answers from their startled mother. Fuming with absolute rage, the silver-haired brother cannot believe the shocking news of Laria's impending marriage. The parents express their profound shock and regret over the unexpected royal decree that started this mess. A desperate plea for forgiveness hangs heavily in the air as they grapple with the sudden imperial pressure. The silver-haired brother grits his teeth, utterly furious that Loria is being forced to marry the terrifying Grand Duke. The exhausted silver-haired mother exhales a heavy sigh, trying to calm her raging son down before he acts rashly. The brother paces the room in disbelief, noting that their father has already collapsed on the couch from the sheer shock. Gesturing wildly, the silver-haired brother demands to know the truth behind Loria's sudden connection to the Duke. The silver-haired brother explains that the Duke promised to correct the marriage announcement. Slamming his hands down in fury, the silver-haired brother declares that the fake engagement is absolute madness, setting up an explosive family showdown. Cold calculation flares in the silver-haired mother's sharp blue eyes as she processes her daughter's shocking claims. In the quiet study, the suspicious brother and mother try to fathom if their beloved girl was secretly coerced. The brother recalls Loria's radiant smile, struggling to believe her overwhelming display of affection was just a performance. The silver-haired mother reflects deeply on Loria's description of the supposedly kind and understanding Grand Duke. Terrified that their precious sister has fallen for a ruthless madman, the brother violently demands their immediate separation. Clutching his desk in sheer frustration, the glasses-wearing brother trembles at the thought of Loria being near that beast. Yet he hesitates, realizing a forced intervention might only make Loria resent her own protective family. A sudden wave of panic washes over him as he imagines her potential cool fury. He shudders at the devastating mental image of Loria turning a freezing, disappointed gaze upon them. Breaking the heavy silence, the scheming mother slyly gestures with a finger, revealing she has a secret plan. She plots a clever solution to derail the romance without driving a wedge between them and their daughter. She proposes using a mysterious purple potion, a concoction meant to target the unsuspecting Grand Duke himself. The mother eagerly plans to swoon in and heal Loria's first heartbreak after the Duke's feelings are forced to change. The silver-haired father weeps tears of absolute joy and relief upon hearing his wife's brilliant scheme. Under the cover of night, the mother tasks her emotional husband to brew the extraordinary formula. Loria sighs at her desk, realizing she must quickly manufacture a perfect excuse to begin her fake engagement. She sifts through a mountain of prying letters, all desperately asking to verify the shocking rumors of her marriage. Suddenly, her bright blue eyes widen in surprise as she spots a peculiar letter tucked among the pile. Picking up the document, she discovers a formal invitation to an exclusive gathering of the Fox tribe. A brilliant smile lights up Loria's face as she realizes this is her ultimate escape ticket. She calculates the perfect timing of the event, finding it incredibly convenient for her secret getaway. She reflects on her childhood, recalling her painful past as a rare, magicless child who couldn't even shift. The memory of young Loria peeking from behind her father shows how fiercely her protective family shielded her. Her mind drifts to the harsh reality of Beastman society, grateful that her family saved her from cruel discrimination. Returning to the present, she marvels at how quickly the rumors of her engagement must have traveled. She recalls the quiet joy of studying magic alongside others, eagerly anticipating a chance to learn again. Gently tucking her hair back, she decides there is absolutely no reason to reject the invitation. With time ticking away, she taps the table, determined to begin her preparations immediately. The moment she opens her door, she gasps to find her entire family hovering suspiciously outside. The trio immediately tries to play it cool, offering hilariously terrible excuses for their sudden presence. Undeterred, Loria calmly announces her plan to attend the upcoming Fox Tribe gathering. Instantly, her family's expressions darken as they accuse her of using it as a ruse to meet the Duke. Smiling nervously, Loria quickly holds up the formal invitation as physical proof of her innocence. Stunned by the unexpected evidence, the overprotective trio stares at the letter in absolute silence. Suddenly, a warm hand desperately snatches Loria's, shattering the tense silence. The tearful father begs Loria to stay and play with him instead of visiting other beastmen. While the mother facepalms in embarrassment, the glasses-wearing brother remains intensely skeptical. Pushing his glasses up, her brother coldly dismisses the gathering as a complete waste of time. Loria blinks in confusion, momentarily taken aback by his harsh dismissal. But the second she threatens to visit the Duke instead, her father and brother execute an instant, hilarious 180-degree turn. Sweating at their sudden, manic encouragement, Loria can only offer a stunned agreement. As dawn breaks over the grand estate, Loria prepares her departure under the condition of taking personal guards. Standing elegantly in a vibrant blue dress amidst blooming roses, Loria looks absolutely breathtaking and ready for the journey. She reflects on her family's extreme worry, understanding their anxiety since she had mysteriously vanished once before. Under the clear blue sky, a panicked voice suddenly echoes through the lush green gardens. A handsome, blonde-haired young man named Rodette rushes forward, frantically apologizing for arriving late to his escort duties. Loria looks on in amusement, asking her highly enthusiastic hunting dog Beastman escort why he is so incredibly energetic. The fiercely loyal Rodette happily declares his ultimate mission to personally guarantee her absolute safety today. A dangerous path lies ahead, but as the secret mission begins, Loria realizes her primary escort is more like an overexcited puppy than a reliable guard. Rodette eagerly boasts about his newly softened fur thanks to her medicine, inviting her to feel it himself. Their lighthearted banter is suddenly cut short as a confusing development stops them right at the entrance. Loria freezes in utter disbelief upon hearing the gatekeeper's shocking declaration that her name is missing from the list. A sudden outburst of anger echoes across the Grand Palace gardens as the outrageous news is delivered. Fuming with rage, Rodette aggressively demands the nervous receptionist recheck the guest list immediately. Loria grows deeply suspicious, knowing for a fact that she had formally confirmed her attendance beforehand. Refusing to be turned away, the determined girl steps forward to personally inspect the document. The butler visibly panics and sweats under her intense gaze, realizing his trick has been exposed. Quickly backing down, the anxious butler nervously claims it was a mistake and offers to escort her inside. Stepping through the rose-filled archway, Loria enters the beautiful venue, unaware of the trap awaiting her. Sensing danger, Loria stops in her tracks and quietly assigns her loyal escort a secret mission. Rodette enthusiastically salutes, ready to execute her command with absolute loyalty. Clasping her invitation, Loria smiles triumphantly, realizing her long-awaited opportunity to act has finally arrived. Following the butler's direction, she walks deeper into the winding, rose-lined pathway. As the trail drags on endlessly, Loria begins to grow weary of the suspiciously long journey. Realizing she is completely lost in the maze, she grows highly alert as a strange sensation fills the air. Suddenly, an ominous purple fog swirls around her, warping the reality of the garden. Loria instantly recognizes the surrounding space as a flawed and poorly constructed illusion spell. Disdainful of the amateur trap, she easily channels her magic to shatter the illusion with minimal effort. The fake roses crack like glass as her pure magic dismantles the surrounding spell. As the entire illusion falls apart, Loria wonders if this pathetic trick was meant as a petty welcoming test. She ponders whether the sorcerers underestimated her, holding back only because of her newcomer status. The grand greenhouse and the true gathering venue finally materialize before her eyes in brilliant light. Loria is taken aback to discover that the other prestigious guests are already seated. Dozens of eyes instantly lock onto her, sizing up the newcomer with cold curiosity. Masking her wariness, Loria puts on a radiant smile and politely greets the gathered nobility. The guests immediately begin whispering amongst themselves, criticizing her overly cheerful demeanor. Cruel rumors circulate as they question whether her magical abilities are merely a fabricated lie. Annoyed by the petty chatter, Loria tries to ignore the blatant hostility of the surrounding strangers. Scanning the massive crowd, she desperately searches for a single friendly face to talk to. Loria's eyes widen in surprise as she spots a highly familiar face in the crowd. She instantly recognizes the striking red-haired woman as Sienna Hasher of the renowned Red Fox clan. Loria recalls that Sienna's father leads the Ministry of Magic, meaning Sienna possesses formidable power. Two servants suddenly approach, offering formal apologies and guiding Loria toward the main seating area. Keeping her guard up, Loria politely complies and follows them to the designated table. To her shock, she arrives to find that no chair has been prepared for her. She laments the blatant disrespect, wishing to avoid starting a scene at her very first social event. Her annoyance peaks as she realizes the hostesses have crossed the line with this deliberate snub. Remaining perfectly calm, Loria decides to resolve the humiliating situation using her own unique magic. Under her command, a seed rapidly sprouts and weaves itself into an elegant wooden chair. Seating herself with absolute grace, Loria loudly criticizes the poor hospitality of the hosts. An arrogant guest approaches, mockingly questioning if her magic is nothing more than a cheap trick. A smug snicker echoes as the hostile guest continues to look down on her unique abilities. The critic sneers at her supposedly useless plant magic, but Loria remains completely unbothered. Suddenly, a sharp command cuts through the hostile atmosphere, demanding silence from the agitators. Sienna Hasher steps in, declaring she will not tolerate any disrespect toward a guest at our party. Sitting down opposite Loria, Sienna unexpectedly expresses her deep gratitude to her, setting up an unpredictable alliance that could change the fate of the entire Fox tribe. Tensions reach a boiling point at the exclusive gathering as Sienna notes that even basic magic can be surprisingly useful in the right hands. Loria smiles politely in response, agreeing that the technique is indeed easy to learn. Sienna's gaze turns sharp and calculating as she silently observes her guest with intense crimson eyes. The tea party continues peacefully under the grand glass gazebo surrounded by lush, blooming red roses. Loria sits quietly, noting that the overall conversation at the table has shifted to a specific theme. The surrounding guests shower Sienna with endless praise, emphasizing the absolute superiority of the Fox clan. An arrogant noble gestures proudly, declaring that Sienna's genius is unmatched in their generation. Thoughts turn to the legendary Fox Orb, a relic capable of easily crushing their sworn enemies, the Wolf clan. The nobles agree that reclaiming their tribe's legendary glory is only a matter of time once the treasure is found. The dark-haired man's expression twists with greed, declaring he would wage war just to claim the orb for himself. Deep within their discussion, the mysterious glowing blue orb remains the ultimate prize everyone desperately seeks. The other guests wonder aloud if the ancient relic still exists or where it could possibly be hidden. Sienna smiles mysteriously, suggesting that someone might have been keeping it hidden away all this time. Sienna suddenly pivots, directly asking Loria for her opinion on the missing treasure's whereabouts. Sweat drips down Loria's face as the sudden question catches her completely off guard. Legend says the mystical fox orb allows its user to wield all elements of magic and belong to the Clasium family. Loria panics internally as she realizes the legendary orb is currently sitting directly inside her own stomach. Loria recalls how she accidentally swallowed the glowing blue gem, insisting it was completely unintentional. She remembers her time as a small white fox, discovering the glowing artifact at the Clasium estate after her kidnapping. That fateful night, a sudden intruder startled her, causing her to swallow the orb whole to protect it. Back in her room, the desperate girl tried everything to retrieve the orb, but it remained firmly inside her. Although the swallowed gem granted her incredible magical powers, it came with the bizarre condition of consuming raw gemstones. Loria realizes with absolute dread that these power-hungry nobles would eagerly cut her open to retrieve the relic. Sienna interrupts her thoughts, smoothly steering the conversation back to the importance of constant magical training. Another guest wins over Sienna's profound insights, praising her as the youngest mage in the prestigious Magic Bureau. Loria is thoroughly taken aback to learn of Sienna's incredibly high standing at such a young age. She observes Sienna's magical demonstration, marveling at her ability to easily control 3 spells simultaneously. The brown-haired noblewoman seated next to Loria asks about her own recent magical training routines. Another noble joins in, highly praising the impressive defensive spell Loria displayed earlier in the garden. Loria's blue eyes widen as she prepares to answer, curious to see how her abilities compare. Sienna boasts about her recent spatial movement magic, proudly noting she has cut the casting time down to 10 minutes. The surrounding guests gasp in absolute shock, utterly amazed by Sienna's masterclass speed. Loria blinks in sheer bewilderment, struggling to comprehend why a 10-minute cast time is being praised. She humorously imagines how walking through a door would be infinitely faster than waiting 10 minutes to teleport. Loria reflects on her own rigorous study days, remembering that such spatial spells were as simple as basic math. She glances at Sienna's smug expression, seriously wondering if she has somehow misheard the duration. Sienna acts humble amidst the praise, politely encouraging Loria to do her best to keep up with them. Leaning in with a subtle smirk, Sienna questions if the Duke of Classium is fond of magic at all. Loria grows highly irritated, wondering why the Duke's name is suddenly being dragged into the conversation. The guests whisper amongst themselves, pointing out how Sienna is even being polite to a member of the sworn enemy wolf tribe. The whispers grow nastier as the guests claim the Duke is mentally unstable and lacks true Beastman pride. Clenching her fist tightly, Loria reaches her absolute limit as she listens to their insulting gossip. Suddenly, a frantic voice screams out from across the gardens, instantly shattering the tense atmosphere. Sienna and her guest whip their heads around in surprise, startled by the sudden commotion. A sweating butler rushes in to deliver the shocking news that the Duke of Classium himself has just arrived. Loria smiles in relief, realizing her secret message to Raudette has finally summoned the Duke. Sienna is visibly rattled by the unexpected development, demanding to know what business the Wolf Duke has here. The arrogant guest table falls into absolute silence, trembling at the sudden arrival of the terrifying war god. Fed up with the hostile atmosphere, Loria dramatically stands up to excuse herself from the awkward gathering. With a gracious smile, she unleashes her teleportation magic and wishes the stunned guests farewell. Sienna watches in absolute silence as Loria vanishes, leaving only a fading swirl of magical residue behind. Outsmarted at her own party, Sienna grinds her teeth in a fit of silent rage. Loria successfully teleports outside, only to gasp in shock as she spots the handsome Wolf Duke Xenox waiting by his carriage. Before she can process his sudden arrival, a massive explosion of smoke and light erupts behind her. The unexpected magical shockwave completely throws her off balance, sending her falling backward in panic. Amidst a flurry of beautiful pink blossoms, Xenox catches her in his arms, holding her close as they lock eyes. They share a silent, breathtaking moment of intense connection, gazing deeply into each other's eyes. The peaceful silence is shattered as her blonde knight, Raudette, comes charging down the path, screaming in distress. Raudette slides to a halt, desperately asking if she is unharmed, while Loria quickly reassures him that she is perfectly fine. A heavy, silent tension immediately fills the air as the blonde knight and the dark-haired Beastman exchange a venomous glare. Raudette warns her that being near him is too dangerous, but Xenox calmly asks if his presence has caused her any trouble. Xenox reminds her of his Beastman nature, but Loria enthusiastically assures him that his timing is absolutely perfect. Sensing their surroundings are too public, Xenox suggests moving their discussion about the sensitive topic to a more private location. Taking a gentlemanly step closer, he politely invites her to accompany him for tea. Looking incredibly bright and beautiful, Loria eagerly agrees to the invite as she moves toward the carriage. The scene shifts to the breathtaking, majestic white towers of the Grand Classium estate. Inside the carriage, a comically distressed Raudette squishes his face against the glass window, crying over her safety. Loria laughs off his dramatic display, warmly apologizing to Xenox for the chaotic state of her companion. A gentle breeze catches her shimmering silver hair as they finally step onto the estate grounds. Strolling through the familiar pathways, Loria nostalgically reflects on how the beautiful gardens haven't changed one bit. She fondly recalls a bright memory of the garden when it was filled with golden sunflowers in full bloom. Her thoughts drift back to her time as a cute white fox, remembering the incredibly kind butler, chef, and gardener who cared for her. Standing before the massive entrance doors, she takes a quiet moment to absorb the bittersweet feeling of returning. Looking up at the grand structure, Loria silently questions if she actually missed living in this massive estate. The heavy double doors creak open slowly, revealing a dimly lit, mysterious interior. Keeping her guard up, Loria steps inside side by side with Xenox, their footsteps echoing through the quiet halls. Her eyes widen in suspicion as she immediately senses a heavy, unsettling darkness swirling around them. Deeply unsettled, Loria notes that the Classium residence feels completely different than she remembers. Clenching her fists, Loria grows highly alert, realizing the mansion is actively shrouded in an unnatural, oppressive energy. Looking up at the vaulted ceiling, she notes that the overall atmosphere is heavy with a strange foreign presence. Loria realizes this chilling sensation is actually a powerful magical aura, strikingly similar to the energy she senses from Xenox. Xenox looks back at her with concern, but she quickly masks her worry, claiming she only felt a slight chill in the air. Her evasive answer leaves Xenox visibly tense and sweating, sensing that she knows far more than she is letting on. The loyal butler bows deeply in embarrassment, insisting he gave strict orders to clean every corner of the house. Loria and Xenox quickly wave their hands in reassurance, praising the cleanliness of the house to ease the old man's anxiety. But curiously, Loria asks if a magician has ever visited, and though the butler denies it, she is certain a magical trace remains. Looking down at her glowing magical bracelet, she reasons that the family's immense wealth might have drawn magic stones. Determined to fix the oppressive atmosphere, Loria confidently gathers her skirts and decides to clean the area herself. She channels her incredible powers, summoning intricate, glowing blue magic circles that illuminate the entire dark hall. The sudden burst of divine power shakes the mansion, sending the terrified servants screaming in absolute panic. The butler gapes in utter disbelief, his face twisting with shock at the massive display of magic. His eyes widen in complete terror as he witnesses a power beyond his wildest comprehension. With a spectacular burst of blue lightning, Loria's grand purification spell sweeps through the hall, completely banishing the dark shadows. Unleashing a massive wave of pure purification magic, the silver-haired girl shatters the oppressive dark aura gripping the mansion. With absolute determination, Loria clenches her fist, completely crushing the final traces of the black curse. Her bright, glowing smile returns as she cheerfully assures everyone that the danger has been completely taken care of. The stunned butler stands frozen, privately doubting how such complex, heavy magic could be purified so effortlessly. Feeling the refreshing air, the old servant fondly notes how the mansion's atmosphere feels exactly like when the beloved white fox, Shiro, was still here. Seeking to ensure the estate's absolute safety, the chibi silver-haired girl requests to inspect the interior, which the dark-haired Beastman lord readily permits. A sudden realization hits the butler, sending a cold shiver of panic through his very soul. When the frantic butler offers to guide them through the halls, a firm, black-gloved hand instantly stops him. Stepping in with quiet authority, the dark-haired duke pulls the startled girl close, declaring he will guide her himself. The old servant gapes in absolute disbelief at the unprecedented behavior of the formidable head of the house. Watching the duke smile so warmly at the silver-haired girl, the butler reflects that Xenox has never looked at anyone this way besides their long-lost fox companion. He silently concludes that this bizarre arrangement must be a miraculous twist of fate orchestrated by Shiro himself. Giant fluffy white paws playfully pat the heads of the two chibi companions. While a dramatic vow to protect the engagement rings out across the palace, the confused spirit of the little white fox wonders what is happening. Golden sunlight streams through the tall windows of the quiet, elegant drawing room. Xenox politely apologizes for his forwardness, but Laria enthusiastically encourages him, suggesting they fully commit to their fake relationship. A heavy, expectant silence descends as the two seat themselves across from each other in the grand parlor. Gazing at her familiar surroundings, Loria silently marvels at how the estate and its loyal butler remain completely unchanged after 3 long years. Breaking the quiet, Xenox curiously asks about the specific nature of the dark magic she purified, prompting Loria to pause in deep thought. She nervously admits that it is her very first time witnessing such a dark anomaly with her own eyes. Loria reveals the chilling truth that the anomaly was a highly dangerous forbidden spell specifically designed to target the Duke. Dar's oppressive magic manifests as heavy iron chains binding Xenox's powerful form. Though the curse's destruction cleared his mind, Xenox finds himself struggling desperately to control his wild beast transformations without his heavy armor. He reveals that his specialized armored gloves are actually magical restraints designed to suppress his unstable beast nature. Extending his heavy black glove, the dark-haired Beastman gently invites the curious girl to touch the suppressing armor. As her delicate fingers make contact with his dark glove, a spectacular swirl of pink blossoms fills the air. Staring intently at her, Xenox silently confirms a deep, shocking suspicion about her true nature. He is captivated by the soft, ethereal shimmer of her beautiful silver tresses. He marvels at her flawless complexion, which glows as white as freshly fallen winter snow. But it is her stunning blue eyes, featuring a distinct, slit-like beast pupil, that truly gives her away. Their hands remain joined, bridging the gap between human magic and ancient beast heritage. Suddenly, a jolt of intense magical feedback shocks them both, forcing them to gasp and pull back in surprise. The normally cold and untouchable war god is left completely flustered and breathless by the sudden connection. Blushing deeply, the Duke quickly apologizes for his lapse in focus, while Loria nervously laughs it off as her own distraction. An incredibly awkward, silent tension fills the chibi room as neither of them knows what to say next. Regaining her composure, Loria theorizes that magical cursed items must have been sneakily smuggled into the estate over a long period. To resolve this persistent threat, she suggests that the Duke should hire a highly skilled professional magician. Her sensible suggestion lingers in the quiet air of the elegant drawing room. However, finding a mage is nearly impossible, as the most talented magicians belong to the Fox clan, who fiercely refuse to help the Wolf clan. Laria shrinks back in chibi despair, fully realizing the bitter truth of this ancient tribal rivalry. Seeking a clever loophole, the silver-haired girl suggests that she could personally drop by occasionally to inspect the estate herself. Xenox is completely taken aback, his golden eyes widening as he eagerly questions if she is truly willing to do that. Laria playfully winks, confirming she will gladly do so for the entire duration of their temporary engagement. With a highly mischievous grin, she drops her main condition. Her incredible purification magic runs entirely on consuming raw, expensive gemstones. A dazzling array of precious diamonds, emeralds, and rubies materialize in her imagination as her primary fuel source. She secretly admits to herself that demanding such a lavish payment feels incredibly awkward, but it is a necessary sacrifice. The powerful Wolf Duke is left completely speechless by her unexpectedly bizarre and costly request. Beaming with angelic innocence, Loria reassures him that the expensive price is entirely worth permanently shattering his dark curse. A gentle breeze sweeps across a vast, beautiful field of bright golden sunflowers. Gazing at his savior, the legendary war god lets out a breathtakingly handsome, warm smile that could melt the coldest winter. Loria stands utterly bewildered as a sudden revelation completely turns her world upside down. Looking out at the breathtaking estate, her mind screams in utter disbelief at the sheer scale of the mansion. Loria wonders if even the specific layout of the garden matches her memories. Laria's desperate plea for gemstone payment leaves the wealthy duke completely unfazed. She realizes that to a ruler of his stature, precious diamonds are practically worthless pebbles. Xenox casually dismisses the expense, explaining that gemstones are as common as gravel in his lands. Loria secretly panics, remembering she already absorbed his clan's most sacred treasure. To mask her guilt, Loria cheerfully insists on performing the purification for free. Xenox counters with a warm smile, determined to reward her efforts regardless. The two continue their playful negotiation in the quiet, elegant drawing room. Confused by his intense generosity, Loria silently questions his hidden motives. She fondly recalls the warmth of the mansion's loyal staff during her time as a fox. Loria hesitates, searching for a convincing excuse to hide her true identity. She puts on a brilliant, charming smile to ease the growing tension. Eager to change the subject, Loria suggests they begin their tour of the estate. Her sudden, radiant smile leaves the formidable war god completely flustered. Together, they begin searching the massive mansion for any lingering traces of dark magic. Loria carefully peers inside each room, keeping a watchful eye for anomalies. She spots her favorite childhood stuffed toy line carefully preserved on a cushion. Loria reminisces about how carefully her animal form was once pampered here. Loria informs the Duke that this particular area is completely free of curses. She asks if they have successfully secured all the critical areas. Xenox turns grim, revealing that one final crucial location still remains. Loria realizes the Duke is leading her toward a very specific destination. They stop before a massive, imposing set of locked wooden doors. Heart-pounding, Loria realizes exactly where they are standing. An ominous aura radiates from the chambers directly above them. Xenox reveals that this chamber was once completely ravaged by a devastating fire. The Duke warns her that the interior remains untouched and highly disturbing. Loria swallows hard, wondering if they preserved the ruins to gather evidence. She trembles in absolute terror, fearing her theft of the orb will be exposed. Clenching her teeth, Loria resolves to protect her secret at all costs. The heavy door slowly creaks open to reveal a dark, ruined study. Xenox observes her closely, noting her unusually tense and quiet demeanor. The Duke calls out her name, noticing her hands are shaking violently. Xenox apologizes for showing her such a dusty and neglected room. Overwhelmed by panic, Loria wonders if this entire tour is a trap. Before she can escape, a firm hand gently stops her. Not completely off guard, Loria's secret beast ears suddenly pop out. Her heart stops as she realizes her disguise has completely failed. The heavy, tense silence of the ruined room threatens to suffocate them. A thick layer of dust settles over the remains of the scorched library. Xenox marvels at how his chronic madness completely vanished upon touching her. He reflects on the years of agonizing pain and relentless auditory hallucinations. His ancient beast bloodline responds to her proximity with startling intensity. Xenix suspects that her connection to the legendary fox orb is real. He struggles to reconcile the memories of his beloved fox companion with Loria. Staring at the missing fox posters, Xenox vows to uncover her true identity. The mystery deepens as rumors of a missing noble girl send shockwaves through the Empire. Haunted by the truth, Duke Xenox clutches his head in anguish, questioning his own sanity. Walking through the ruined study, his footsteps echo with a deep, painful regret for leaving his beloved companion behind. He realizes that if he had only kept Shiro by his side, this agonizing tragedy could have been avoided. A heartbreaking realization strikes him that she would still be right next to him today. He agonizes over whether the clever little fox grew to resent his absence, remembering her terrifying escape from the roaring flames. His golden eyes flare with dark determination as he vows never to let her slip through his fingers again. Meanwhile, the delicate shimmer of silver hair catches the soft morning light. Standing by the window, Loria is filled with dread, knowing she can never return to Xenox now that he suspects her secret. Terrified by their accidental, heart-pounding embrace, the chibi girl desperately seeks a way to clear his suspicions when a mysterious dark feather floats down. A massive carrier crow suddenly swoops in, delivering an urgent message from her ally, Soulike. Unrolling the parchment, Loria quickly realizes that a critical situation demands her immediate presence. The haunting image of a legendary red beast looms large in her thoughts, hinting at a dangerous new threat. Under a brilliant full moon, a grand magic tower glows with intense, mystical energy. Haughty red-haired Sienna smiles triumphantly as she receives high praise for her revolutionary magic. A dazzling blue magic circle erupts on the floor, showcasing a complex spell that manipulates time itself. Sienna dismisses the praise with feigned modesty, claiming she still has a long way to go.
Her instructor assures her that her rise to the pinnacle of the Ministry of Magic is now inevitable.
The prestigious title of high-ranked magician Samad Ravel shines proudly on his official emblem. Despite the glowing praise, Sienna tightly clenches her fist in a silent burning fury. Standing in her private quarters, she refuses to believe anyone could naturally possess such overwhelming magical talent without cheating. Gritting her teeth, Sienna vows to expose the fraud and reclaim her rightful glory at any cost. The scene shifts to a secluded, rustic tavern tucked away in the quiet corners of the city. A heavy wooden door creaks open as a mysterious visitor in a red gown steps inside. Behind the counter, a purple-haired man wearing an eye patch watches the newcomer with sharp curiosity. A flash of recognition crosses his face as he warmly welcomes his high society guest. Sienna demands to know if he has successfully located any skilled individuals for her covert operation. The host proudly presents his top candidate, a silent figure completely shrouded in a dark blue cloak. Unimpressed by the mystery, Sienna strictly commands the traveler to remove their hood and reveal their face. The hooded figure politely declines, explaining that concealing one's identity is an absolute rule for high-stakes commissions. Sienna's crimson eyes narrow in deep irritation at this unexpected defiance. She steps closer, questioning how she can possibly trust an operative whose identity remains hidden. The purple-haired broker quickly steps in to reassure his wealthy client of the candidate's absolute reliability. When Sienna demands immediate proof, the mysterious hooded figure abruptly turns down the commission entirely. A hilariously awkward silence descends on the room as the shocked aristocrat is left utterly speechless. Coughing politely, the hooded stranger declares that this job is far beyond their skill level and prepares to depart. Enraged by the sudden rejection, Sienna fiercely asserts her authority as the paying client. With a sharp snap of her fingers, she decides to take matters into her own hands. Sienna unleashes a powerful spell, forcing the reluctant mage to demonstrate their magical capabilities. Stunned by the sudden activation, the hooded girl's luminous blue eyes widen in sheer disbelief. A violent torrent of magical wind whips through the room, threatening to tear away her disguise. Watching the spectacle unfold, the sly broker smiles as if everything is going exactly to plan. Forced to defend herself, Loria channels her own unique magic to counter the sudden spell. A spectacular burst of energy surges forward, instantly overriding Sienna's constraint. In the blink of an eye, the magical feedback triggers a massive teleportation spell. The two women suddenly materialize in a grand empty stone courtyard of a majestic castle. Grinning with intense satisfaction, Sienna demands that the hooded mage finally show her true power. She casually struts away, inviting her mysterious partner to use whatever magic they excel at the most. Realizing she has no choice, Loria decides to play along for now before finding a way to escape this dangerous trap. The stage is set for a clash of magical egos as the haughty, red-haired Sienna mockingly questions if the mysterious hooded mage is too incompetent to cast a simple spell. Undeterred by the insult, the silver-haired Loria calmly asks if she can demonstrate some basic offensive magic to prove her capabilities. Amused by the audacious offer, Sienna scoffs in derision, completely underestimating her guest's true power. With absolute confidence, Sienna boasts that the training grounds are protected by 3 layers of high-tier magic barriers. Before the noblewoman can even finish her sentence, Laria's magic instantly shatters the indestructible defenses with a deafening blast. Stunned by the collapse of her high-ranking barriers, Sienna stands frozen in absolute shock at this impossible display of strength. Breaking the tense silence, Loria awkwardly asks if she is financially responsible for the broken property, which a flustered Sienna quickly dismisses. Narrowing her crimson eyes, Sienna demands to know the true identity of this mysteriously powerful mage. Staring at the ruined courtyard, Sienna is haunted by the realization that her years of intense training couldn't even scratch the barriers this stranger bypassed instantly. Horrified yet captivated by the ease with which Loria used basic magic, Sienna resolves never to let this prodigy out of her sight. Plastering on a sweet, fake smile, Sienna quickly reassures her guests that the Ministry of Magic will cover the costly damages. Changing her tactics, Sienna approaches the hooded girl with feigned warmth, eagerly asking for her name. Behind her cheerful facade, the cunning aristocrat inwardly vows to secure this magical powerhouse as her personal pawn. Sensing the trap, Loria carefully conceals her identity, introducing herself under the alias of Lily. Sienna instantly tries to lock her down with an immediate contract, but Loria delivers a blunt, crushing rejection. Leaving the haughty noblewoman utterly speechless, the hooded mage firmly refuses the high-stakes commission. Frantic and desperate, Sienna begs to know her reasoning, offering to adjust any condition to meet her terms. Loria attempts to claim she lacks the proper skills, but Sienna aggressively cuts her off with a jaw-dropping financial counteroffer. Throwing her vast wealth around, Sienna promises to pay 10 times the standard rate and cover all travel expenses. Enticed by the sheer mountain of treasure, Loria's mercenary instincts kick in as she immediately accepts the deal. Sienna is left sweating in bewilderment at how easily the formidable mage was swayed by money. The true dark nature of the contract is revealed as Sienna plots to uncover everything about her rival, Laria Rohan. Unaware of her client's real target, Laria receives her official orders to closely observe and report her own movements. Furious at the trap she was walked into, Laria storms into the tavern and confronts her broker for setting her up with Sienna. The purple-haired Solike casually brushes off her anger, admitting he knew about the investigation all along. Sensing his shift, Laria is chilled as Solike issues a dark, mocking apology for the lack of warning. Backing away from his intimidating presence, Laria nervously questions why he is acting so hostile. Aggressively slamming his glass down, Solike furiously vents his anger toward the person who ruined his business. Solike reveals he suffered massive financial losses because she announced her engagement after promising she wouldn't marry. Feeling guilty for the collateral damage, Laria offers a sincere apology, but Solike demands she pay him back with her services. To settle the score, Solike offers her a perfect replacement job, though a cautious Laria demands to hear the details first. Solike assures her it is a simple escort mission for a noble, leaving Laria highly skeptical of his promise. Fate takes a chaotic turn as a dramatic transition sets the stage for a highly dangerous new encounter. Walking through the city, Laria deeply regrets trusting her shady broker as the weight of her new mission sinks in. Arriving at a massive, luxurious estate, she realizes this assignment is far more dangerous than she anticipated. Frustrated by the obvious setup, Laria silently vows to get revenge on Solike for lying about the simplicity of the job. The mighty Duke Xenox steps forward, greeting his disguised escort with a knowing, mocking smirk. Looking devastatingly handsome, the war god remarks that he has been eagerly waiting 10 whole days for her arrival. Realizing she has walked directly into the lion's den, Laria mentally curses her own stupidity for not asking who the client was. Xenox reaches out, demanding to know if she simply ignored the urgent letter he sent her. Laria quickly fabricates an excuse, claiming that bringing a highly visible escort would only arouse suspicion. Looking around the peaceful estate, Laria nervously questions if such a secure mansion truly needs her protection. Xenox leans close, explaining that he requires her services because a persistent stalker has been targeting him. Stunned by the unexpected revelation, Laria gasps in sheer disbelief at the thought of someone stalking the formidable Duke. Xenox confirms that his pursuer has been trailing him for days but has yet to make a move. Grabbing her arm firmly, the Duke insists they move immediately to address the threat. As they walk side by side, Laria questions if it is truly safe for him to be wandering outside with a stalker on the loose. She wonders what critical urgency could have forced him to leave the safety of his estate under such dangerous conditions. The massive double doors swing open to reveal a grand, glittering hall lined with bowing servants welcoming the Duke home. Laria stands frozen in shock as she is led into a room filled with wedding attire, realizing the trap has officially sprung. Just when she thought she escaped, Laria gets dragged into a trap as the boutique staff reveals they have wedding accessories waiting for the Duke's fiancée. Realizing she has walked straight into a marriage trap, the disguised silver-haired mage stares in absolute horror. Overwhelmed by panic, she immediately tries to back away as the shop attendants prepare to serve them. Spotting her sudden hesitation, the sharp golden eyes of the handsome Duke Xenox narrow with immediate curiosity. Flashing a dangerously charming smile, Xenox instructs the staff to lead them to the dressing rooms. Trapped in a corner of pure embarrassment, the adorable silver-haired Laria blushes furiously under her dark blue hood. Trembling with every step, she reluctantly follows the towering Duke deeper into the luxurious bridal boutique. The pressure intensifies as Xenox reveals his true intention. He is here to handpick a stunning gift for his mysterious fiancée. He sighs deeply, admitting his fiancée hasn't shown her face in 10 whole days, sending a jolt of pure guilt through Laria. As Xenox reaches out to inspect the collection of dresses, the tension in the room reaches a boiling point. Turning around with absolute confidence, Xenox presents an exquisite blue gown, eagerly waiting for her professional reaction. Forced to maintain her alias, Laria sweat drops, quickly offering a nervous apology about being far too busy lately. Amused by her flustered excuses, the Duke flashes a knowing smirk that completely terrifies her chibi inner self. When he suddenly demands her direct opinion on the dresses, her luminous blue eyes widen in sheer panic. The sparkling white and blue wedding dress glimmers under the boutique lights, representing the ultimate trap for our runaway heroine. Stepping closer, Xenox presents the grand bridal gown directly to her, forcing her to confront her deepest fears. Hearing him call her alias, Lily, Laria's face erupts into a bright crimson blush under her dark hood. Clutching her chest in confusion, she feels her heart beating wildly at his unexpected gentleness. Staring at his handsome face, she struggles to comprehend why her own body is reacting so violently to his presence. Desperate to hide her burning face, she quickly turns away to regain her composure before she exposes her identity. Sensing her distress, the Duke leans in incredibly close, his golden eyes filled with genuine concern for his disguised escort. Covering her blushing face, Laria desperately squeaks out an excuse that she simply feels a bit overheated in the shop. To her absolute shock, Xenox gently places his armored hand on her shoulder, urging her to tell him if she feels unwell. The sudden physical contact sends an electric shock through her body, leaving her completely frozen in place. Looking at his remarkably serious expression, she realizes the fearsome war god is genuinely worried about her well-being. She guiltily reflects on how much her sudden disappearance must have shaken him over the last 10 days. An overwhelming, suffocating wave of pure killing intent suddenly crashes through the room, forcing Xenox to instantly shield her. Sensing the immediate danger, Loria points toward the entrance, warning the Duke that the stalker has followed them inside. Before she can react, a sparkling bracelet is revealed on her wrist, and she gasps in shock as a loud voice demands to know what they are doing. Completely blindsided by the sudden intrusion, the disguised girl panics as her world is turned completely upside down. Xenox spins around in total confusion while the boutique staff trembles in fear behind him at the sudden commotion. Standing before them is Loria's silver-haired brother, Lloyd, who furiously accuses the Duke of flirting with another woman while engaged. Under the cover of darkness, the scene shifts to the Grand Rohan estate, where an ominous conspiracy is about to unfold. Inside a dimly lit study, a sinister plan is set into motion toward making Xenox completely lose all affection for Laria. The elegant silver-haired mother looks on with cold determination, demanding absolute cooperation from her family. Adjusting his glasses, the silver-haired brother cautiously questions the dangerous side effects of their secret chemical concoction. Pointing at the bubbling green potion, they reassure him that this powerful emotion control drug is perfectly safe under the right conditions. The conspirators reveal that the target must be a member of the Rohan family for the magic to properly take root. To trigger the spell, the target must ingest the potion and immediately call out the name of the person they desire to forget. Desperate to save Loria from her engagement, the parents plead with Lloyd to find a way to secretly feed her the elixir. Lloyd deeply sighs, utterly frustrated that Loria chose to get engaged to the terrifying war god of all people. Holding the mysterious golden elixir in his gloved hand, the determined brother resolves to tail the Duke himself. Surrounded by thorny purple roses, Lloyd vows to uncover a critical weakness they can use to break the engagement once and for all. Back in the boutique, a frantic Loria confronts her brother, demanding to know if he actually came to attack the Duke. Lloyd narrows his eyes behind his glasses, deeply concerned about what dangerous things the Duke might have done to her. Quickly hiding the secret potion bottle behind his back, Lloyd is startled when Loria suspiciously asks what he is holding. In a hilarious shift to chibi style, Loria furiously orders her stubborn brother to immediately apologize to Xenox for the misunderstanding. Swallowing his pride, the silver-haired brother bows deeply, offering his formal apologies to the formidable Duke. Xenox casually accepts the apology, but Loria inwardly screams in terror as he wraps his arm around her shoulder again. A sudden shockwave of sheer panic strikes the silver-haired Lloyd as his carefully laid plan hits a massive unexpected obstacle. In the high-stakes atmosphere of the boutique, the brown-haired Duke quickly tries to de-escalate the explosive tension while the disguised Loria shivers at the memory of his terrifying aura. Adjusting his glasses with a confident smile, Lloyd formally extends an invitation for the Duke to visit the Rowan family estate. Under a brilliant blue sky, the grand estate prepares for the highly anticipated arrival as servants are ordered to line up. Every corner of the massive mansion is meticulously polished to a dazzling crystal-clear shine. The head servants assure that every single detail is perfect, boasting a spotless floor polished to a slippery sheen. A sinister, fanged grin signals that the final stage of their hidden plan is officially underway. Loria stands before the mirror, looking absolutely breathtaking in the elegant blue and white gown chosen for her. She nervously adjusts her dress, questioning if such an elaborate outfit is appropriate for a casual visit. Suddenly, a firm hand grips her shoulder from behind, cutting off her doubts immediately. Her silver-haired mother looms behind her with a terrifyingly sweet smile, dissecting the Duke's hidden intentions behind the dress. Loria tries to downplay the significance of the outfit, but her intense mother fiercely shuts her down. Loria reluctantly yields, though she privately grumbles that the design feels far too comfortable. Her father beams with pride at her appearance, while her brother Lloyd keeps a critical, protective eye on the situation. Both men are immediately overwhelmed by how incredibly cute Loria looks in her new outfit. Lloyd panics internally, demanding a more modest outfit to prevent the Duke from falling head over heels. Loria sighs in frustration, pointing out that any more fabric would make the dress look like nightwear. The family descends into absolute hysterics at the scandalous thought of the Duke seeing her in sleepwear. They vehemently agree that such a casual display would completely ruin her refined, ladylike image. Overwhelmed by her family's dramatic reactions, a flustered chibi Loria can only nod in defeat. The chaotic family moment is suddenly shattered as a butler bursts through the doors to deliver an urgent report. Loria freezes in pure suspense as the butler officially announces the arrival of the formidable Duke. Staring blankly, she braces herself for the high-stakes confrontation that is about to unfold. Outside, a grand convoy of luxurious horse-drawn carriages rolls majestically into the estate grounds. Step by step, the Duke approaches Loria, smoothly offering an array of lavish gifts to mark his visit. Flashing a dazzlingly handsome smile, he cordially requests that her family accept his offerings. The sudden display of overwhelming generosity leaves Loria's entire family completely dumbfounded and paralyzed. While her mother politely hesitates, Loria internally screams at the absurdly rare and priceless nature of his gifts. He casually presents a gold-embossed title deed to a luxurious southern resort villa. Her father trembles in sheer disbelief as the Duke reveals he has already registered the entire property under Loria's name. Her family sits in crushed defeat across from the couple, their grand plans completely dismantled by the Duke's opening move. Forced to play along, Loria musters a sweet smile to thank the Duke, secretly feeling guilty for continuing the facade. The family is struck by a wave of absolute horror as Loria plays her role calling the Duke her beloved. Loria looks on in sheer bewilderment as her family crumbles into complete dark despair at her words. A sinister smile plays on her mother's lips as she calls for the servants to bring in the next phase of her trap. An exquisite tray of decorative cupcakes and tarts is served, but a dark secret is baked right into these sweet treats. Alongside the cupcakes, a plate of meticulously prepared cookies is offered to the unsuspecting guests. Loria immediately freezes in suspicion, recognizing that these cookies are items she absolutely detests and never keeps around. Her mother flashes a knowing, wicked grin, confirming Loria's worst fears. Loria's eyes widen in sheer horror as she realizes her mother is actively plotting a dangerous trap. In a frantic panic, Loria screams a desperate warning for Xenox to stop before he takes a single bite. Ignorant of the hidden danger, the handsome Duke happily takes a bite, praising the rich flavor. The Duke politely offers some of the sweets to the Countess, who smoothly declines with a falsely sweet response. The noble war god remains completely relaxed, unaware of the magical trap tightening around him. His gloved hand reaches toward the plate of cookies, pushing the high-stakes culinary gamble to a critical breaking point. Loria can only stare in breathless terror as the Duke prepares to ingest the potentially mind-altering sweet, leaving his fate hanging by a thread. Secrets unravel in the shadows as a forbidden magical trap is set to tear two souls apart. Xenox warmly offers Loria a sweet treat, completely oblivious to the dangerous magical conspiracy unfolding around them. Watching closely, the silver-haired mother gloats in secret triumph as her targeted trap falls perfectly into place. Breaking the quiet tension of the drawing room, the Countess politely initiates a highly calculated conversation with the Duke. The Duke calmly grants her permission to speak, while she deceptively preaches about wanting true love for her daughter. Loria silently screams in pure desperation, praying that Xenox will reject her mother's manipulative questioning. Backed by a beautiful aura of blooming roses, the Duke passionately confesses his undying belief that their meeting was destiny. The unexpected romantic confession hits the family like a physical shockwave, leaving them utterly dumbfounded. An awkward, heavy silence envelops the grand reception room as everyone digests the Duke's bold declaration. Lloyd watches in mounting panic, desperately wondering why the targeted magical potion has shown absolutely no effect. The Countess begins to sweat in disbelief, fearing that they somehow botched the recipe and left the potion out entirely. A delicate hand reaches for the checkered treats as the realization sets in that their carefully laid plan is failing. Horror strikes the room as the Countess unknowingly pops the potion-laced cookie directly into her own mouth. Time seems to grind to an absolute halt as the family stares at the impending magical disaster. Under the sudden, powerful influence of the magic, the Countess coldly demands an immediate divorce from her beloved husband. The tearful Count desperately begs his wife to remember him, only to be brutally rejected with pure, unadulterated disgust. The room erupts into absolute chaos as the father wails loudly, leaving Loria completely bewildered by the sudden domestic meltdown. Realizing the gravity of their self-inflicted crisis, Lloyd urgently demands to know the location of the antidote. As Lloyd struggles to calm his weeping father with promises of a cure, a listening Loria suddenly uncovers their treacherous secret. Loria steps forward in anger, demanding to know if her mother ingested a magical potion, while Lloyd groans in deep regret. To de-escalate the chaotic family drama, the Duke politely asks to be excused from the room for a brief moment. Alone with her brother, Loria furiously confronts him about their underhanded plot to poison the snacks. Lloyd quickly shifts the blame, admitting that the scheme was entirely their parents' brainchild. Refusing to accept any cheap excuses, Loria cold shoulders her brother's desperate attempts to justify their actions. She rubs her temples in absolute frustration, trying to process the sheer stupidity of her family's dangerous antics. Loria scolds her brother for using a cursed draft that reverses love, while Lloyd weakly claims their father swore it was beneficial for health. Hurt and betrayal wash over Loria as she realizes her family's support of her engagement was nothing but a sham to buy time for their scheme. As her mother packed her bags to leave forever, Lloyd mentally kicks himself for not preparing an antidote in advance. Stepping up to fix the mess, Loria confidently declares she can brew the antidote herself and orders her brother to supervise their parents. The scene shifts to a hidden, dusty laboratory where the tools of magic stand ready for a high-stakes alchemy session. Loria stares down at the magical concoction, deeply pondering the cruel reality of a spell designed to destroy love. She convinces herself that the potion would never have worked on Xenox anyway, since their contract engagement lacks any real romantic feelings. Pain pierces Loria's heart as she acknowledges that the Duke's true affection is reserved only for her beast form, Shiro, and not her human self. Alone in the quiet lab, she is forced to admit the painful truth that she has fallen deeply for the fearsome Duke. Shaking her head to dispel the depressing thoughts, she resolutely focuses her mind on the urgent task at hand. With absolute focus, Loria channels her latent magical energy into a brilliant glowing red crystal. Though her brother is a medical genius, his lack of magical talent makes him useless for brewing, leaving Loria as the family's sole hope. Unleashing her formidable spellcasting abilities, she prepares to execute the complex magical recipe with flawless precision. Thanks to her short memory, Loria successfully brews 2 glowing cyan vials of the vital antidote. Under the cover of a peaceful, starry night sky, the cure to their self-made crisis is officially complete. The glowing blue vial is carefully placed on the drawing room table, ready to break the spell. The Countess blinks in sudden clarity as the powerful antidote successfully snaps her out of the magical trance. Seeing his beloved wife return to her senses, the tearful Count bursts into dramatic sobs of pure relief. The sweet harmony of the household is restored as the Countess gently comforts her weeping husband with a warm embrace. With the crisis resolved, Loria delivers a chilling warning to her brother, demanding a full confession the moment she returns from seeing the Duke off. As she walks down the grand hallway, the heavy weight of her unspoken feelings for the Duke pulls down on her heart. She realizes her family targeted Xenox instead of her out of a twisted sense of protection to keep her safe from the potion's risks. She silently vows to force her chaotic family to deliver a proper, formal apology to the unsuspecting Duke. Stepping toward the guest parlor, she prepares to face the man who has completely captured her heart. Mustering her best sweet smile, Loria opens the door to apologize for the delay, but what shocking truth awaits her on the other side? A shocking turn of events unfolds as Loria stands frozen, calling out to her guest in sheer disbelief. Her blue eyes widen in sheer astonishment as she witnesses an impossible, reality-shattering transformation right before her. Sitting on the carpet is a tiny black wolf pup, realizing its bizarre new predicament as Loria questions its true identity. The silver-haired lady demands to know what happened while the tiny beast explains its sudden, mysterious shapeshifting. Loria trembles as a terrifying theory begins to form in her mind about the true nature of this transformation. The adorable black pup calmly licks its paw, completely unaware of the sheer panic gripping his companion. A horrifying realization strikes that this bizarre transformation is a direct, unintended side effect of her mother's love-reversing potion. The heavy weight of this magical crisis looms over them, threatening to unravel all of their carefully laid plans. The black pup explains that the toxic draft was designed to make its victim despise the one they cherish most. Loria gazes down at the tiny creature, offering a sincere, guilt-ridden apology for her family's dangerous schemes. Sorrow washes over Laria's face as she looks upon the miniaturized Duke with profound regret. Looking up at her, the black pup is suddenly reminded of how his beloved white fox used to look when getting into trouble. A brief memory of the adorable white fox pup flashes through his mind, sparking a deep sense of longing. He deduces that the silver-haired lady must be closely linked to the mysterious white fox's current whereabouts. A strange sense of déjà vu washes over him whenever he is in her presence, deepening his suspicions. Shaking off her worry, Loria eagerly presents the glowing antidote, hoping it will cure his bizarre condition. She sits gracefully on the floor, holding out the cure to the small beast sitting expectantly before her. Loria carefully cradles the round, glowing blue vial of potion, ready to administer the magical cure. With a swift motion, she pops the cork off the magical vial, releasing a fate-shimmering aura. The black pup eagerly laps up the glowing blue liquid directly from her open palm. Loria watches with a soft, blushing smile, her heart fluttering at the incredibly adorable sight. She reminds herself that despite his current cute appearance, the creature before her is no ordinary wolf. The grand vision of Xenox in his fearsome imperial military uniform highlights his true, formidable status as a powerful war god. Yet, looking back at the tiny black pup sitting on the floor, she cannot help but feel overwhelmed by its sheer cuteness. The pup's fluffy black ears twitch, reacting to Loria's silent but intense admiration. She novacely assumes that a proud warrior like him would detest being called adorable in this form. Loria quickly stammers an excuse, claiming she meant to call him sleek and dashing rather than cute. The black pup tilts his head, curiously asking if she genuinely finds his current form attractive. Flustered and blushing, the silver-haired lady nervously tries to deflect her mounting embarrassment. She gently lifts the tiny black pup, holding him up to a large mirror to show him his new reflection. Looking at his tiny reflection, she points out just how incredibly small he has become. She cradles the tiny wolf in front of the glass, emphasizing his miniature stature compared to his human self. Laria squeezes him affectionately, admitting that while she cannot call him majestic, he is undeniably charming. Amidst a backdrop of hearts, she suddenly understands why Xenox was so obsessed with her own beast form. She places him on the green sofa, suddenly wondering aloud why the love-reversing potion caused him to transform into a wolf pup. Pup admits he is unsure of the reason but promises to investigate the mystery soon. Loria sits beside him, gently asking if he feels any changes after consuming the antidote. The black pup looks back at her, blankly stating that he does not feel any different at all. A tense silence fills the room as the antidote shows absolutely no sign of reversing the transformation. Loria's eyes widen in sheer horror as the terrifying reality of the failed cure sinks in. A wave of panic washes over her as she dreads the possibility of him being trapped in this form forever. She desperately vows to find another way to restore him to his original powerful self. Clenching her hands, Loria blames herself for dragging the proud Duke into her family's dangerous magical mess. The black pup stares at her in silence, deeply touched by her genuine concern and determination. She turns her face slightly, her heart heavy with the immense responsibility of his fate. In a tender gesture of comfort, the tiny pup places his soft black paw directly on her hand. Loria smiles warmly, her heart melting at how incredibly precious and sweet he is being. Breaking the quiet moment, the black pup perks up his ears to initiate a crucial conversation. He politely requests permission to hide at her family's estate while he remains in this vulnerable state. The miniature Duke explains that if his enemies discover his current condition, they will stop at nothing to destroy him. In a shopping twist of fate, the fearsome Duke finds himself reduced to a helpless, adorable black wolf pup, utterly vulnerable to the whims of destiny. Relieved by his willingness to trust her, Loria beams with a warm, comforting smile as she readily agrees to help him hide. Expressing his deep gratitude, the tiny black wolf pup formally thanks Loria for keeping his bizarre condition a secret. Turning her attention to her chaotic family, Loria confronts her parents to demand a full explanation for their dangerous potion plot. In the quiet tension of the parlor, her father desperately claims his reckless actions were only meant to protect his beloved daughter. Outraged by the weak excuse, the Countess furiously questions how putting a powerful war god in danger could ever be for the best. Loria watches the heated exchange in silence, stunned by the sheer chaos of her parents' misguided protective instincts. Pointing out the fatal flaw in their logic, Loria declares that they should have targeted her instead of risking the Duke's wrath. Terrified of the consequences, Loria's brother Lloyd meekly stammers his promise to deliver a heartfelt apology to the shrunken Duke. Without warning, a chilling command echoes through the room, demanding that she immediately sever her engagement with the terrifying Duke. Loria gasps in disbelief as she stares down her parents, unable to comprehend their sudden and drastic demand. Her parents argue that no caring family would ever allow their precious daughter to be wed to a man with such a bloodthirsty reputation. Her mother nervously tries to justify their extreme plan, explaining that the love-reversing potion was their only desperate way to break the bond. Determined to find a logical solution, Loria keeps her composure as she presses them for any clues on how to reverse the magical mishap. Leaving her remorseful parents behind, Loria immediately seeks out her brilliant brother to analyze the potion's unexpected side effects. Approaching Lloyd, she carefully brings up the mysterious possibility of unusual anomalies in the potion's formulation. Lloyd confidently assures her that the potion should be completely stable, questioning her sudden worry about potential side effects. He admits that while a rare conflict in the magic-specific activation conditions could cause issues, such a scenario is virtually impossible. Raising a finger to illustrate his point, the medical genius begins to explain the exact mechanics of a magical condition clash. He uses the example of a specialized draft designed to target and alter the emotions of only a living, breathing subject. However, the spell becomes highly unpredictable if the target fails to meet the core biological requirements at the exact moment of consumption. As she listens to the theory, a wild and terrifying realization begins to dawn on Loria about the true nature of Xenox's heart. Lloyd explains that a conflict of this magnitude would force the magic to warp, resulting in a bizarre physical transformation instead. She pieces together the devastating truth. Xenox's deep love is reserved only for Whitey, unaware that his beloved white beast is Loria herself. Since he believes his feelings for Loria are strictly contract-based, the love-reversing potion clashed violently with his hidden devotion to Whitey. A shocking revelation takes hold. His profound affection for the mysterious white beast is the very reason he transformed into a pup. Clenching her hand in doubt, she tries to convince herself that this theory is impossible since Xenox has no memory of their fateful encounter. From his perspective, the white beast was nothing more than a cunning thief who vanished into the night with his precious family heirloom. She reasons that if he felt anything toward Whitey at all, it would surely be bitter resentment rather than genuine magical love. A heavy weight of uncertainty presses down on her, leaving her torn between hope and fear for the Duke's future. Breaking her train of thought, Lloyd reassures her that most minor potion side effects tend to naturally fade away within a few days. He guarantees that with a bit of patience, the powerful Duke will surely return to his true, imposing human form. Greatly comforted by his professional assessment, Loria softly thanks her brother for easing her mounting anxiety. A bright, hopeful smile returns to her face as she prepares to share the reassuring news with her shrunken guest. Realizing there is no immediate magical cure, she resolves to wait patiently and keep him safe in the meantime. Stepping out under the tranquil night sky, Loria is startled to learn from a maid that the shrunken Duke has already left for his room. Meanwhile, a tiny black shadow slips silently through the grand, quiet corridors of the Rohan estate, moving with determined purpose. The miniature wolf pup dashes across the cold marble floor, eager to uncover the truth hidden within the mansion. Sneaking around the estate, the clever creature uses his sharp senses to navigate the unfamiliar territory undetected. His golden eyes narrow as he senses a mysterious connection lingering between this aristocratic family and his beloved white fox. He recalls sensing the faint ethereal trace of a powerful fox beat directly from Loria during their brief interactions. With that mystical energy serving as his only clue, the Duke is determined to unravel the secrets surrounding her true identity. Standing proud and resolute, the shrunken commander vows to uncover the truth, unaware of the chaotic storm gathering around him. Unaware of his stealthy investigation, Loria quietly prepares to face whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. The delicate balance of their secret arrangement hangs by a single thread as both sides harbor their own unspoken motives. With every player in place, a thrilling game of deception and hidden affection is about to unfold in the grand manner. Back at the guest wing, a peaceful silence settles over the sprawling estate as midnight approaches. Pushing open the heavy wooden doors of his bedroom, Loria calls out softly to check on her shrunken companion. A pair of fluffy black ears suddenly pops up from under the cozy white blankets, greeting her with sleepy curiosity. Relieved to see him comfortable, Loria delivers the comforting news that his adorable transformation will soon fade away, leaving them both to wonder what shocking revelations await them when he returns to his true form. Faced with the crushing reality of her family's betrayal, Loria gently questions if their fierce opposition to the engagement has deeply upset her tiny companion. Silence hangs heavy in the room as she looks out, her heart weighed down by the unspoken complications of their fate. Deep in her soul, a painful realization begins to dawn as she admits she might actually be deeply bothered by the forced separation. A sweet display of loyalty, the adorable black pup snuggles warmly against her lap to soothe her aching heart. Gently stroking his soft black fur, she fondly remembers how her own white beast form used to offer comfort in times of distress. A soft, affectionate smile lights up her face as the dark clouds of anxiety briefly part. Seeking to unravel the mysteries of the past, she softly asks the tiny Duke why he was searching so desperately for her white beast form. Meanwhile, dark whispers and terrifying rumors echo through the estate, hinting at the monstrous secrets of the feared war god. Deep within the shadows of a quiet forest, a helpless white rabbit suddenly senses an oncoming storm of pure terror. Heavy, commanding footsteps shake the earth as a dangerous presence steps out from the darkness. Frozen in sheer panic, the tiny forest creature gazes up as an imposing shadow looms directly over it. Driven by a primal survival instinct, every wild beast instinctively flees from Xenox's suffocating monstrous aura. Startled by the overwhelming pressure of his presence, a flock of crows takes flight into the twilight sky. During those dark times, the battle-weary commander was slowly losing his mind to the endless horrors of war. Haunted by violent visions, his golden eyes flash with madness under the cold light of his estate. Standing in a ruined hall littered with fallen soldiers, Xenox struggles desperately to distinguish reality from his bloody hallucinations. Exhausted and broken, he wonders if he is trapped in a never-ending nightmare from which he can never wake. Though he fought with brutal strength to end the war and avenge his parents, the cycle of violence refuses to release his soul. From the depths of his fractured mind, a sinister voice whispers that the bloodshed is far from over. His malicious inner demon physicalizes in the shadows, placing a dark hand over his eyes to pull him deeper into the abyss. Cruel, mocking smirk spreads across the darkness as his sanity begins to completely unravel. Covered in blood, the Duke stands on the brink of total madness, consumed by the terrifying ghosts of his past. Unable to bear the crushing weight any longer, his deadly sword slips from his trembling grasp. Suddenly, a pure white fox appears in the ruins, staring up at the terrifying commander without a single ounce of fear. Paralyzed by the agonizing cries of his fallen enemies, he stands motionless as the cold wind howls around him. The relentless, mocking voices in his head grow deafening, threatening to shatter his fragile soul. Desperate to escape the endless torment, he looks down at his fallen weapon one last time. Finally succumbing to the mental exhaustion, the powerful Duke collapses unconscious onto the cold stone floor. A serene stillness settles over the grand estate as hours pass beneath the glowing chandelier. Slowly, his striking golden eyes flutter open as the dark fog of his mind begins to clear. Gazing up at the bright sunlight streaming through the windows, he realizes he has returned to the safety of his bedroom. Clutching his aching head, he groggily wonders if he has fallen victim to another violent blackout. To his absolute shock, he looks down to find the adorable white fox sleeping peacefully right on his lap. Holding the tiny creature, he is completely baffled as to why it refuses to run away from his murderous aura. Hearing the sudden commotion, a terrified young butler holding a lantern rushes into the room to investigate. The Duke fires back an icy, commanding glare that instantly freezes the trembling servant in his tracks. Cradling the sleeping white fox protectively in his arms, Xenox demands answers from the uninvited intruder. Terrified of the Duke's legendary wrath, the trembling butler bows deeply and stammers an apology for his intrusion. Dropping to his knees, the frantic servant begs for mercy, hoping to escape the war god's terrifying judgment. Ignoring the frantic pleas, the stern Duke coldly demands to know the sleeping creature's name. The butler panics and shouts his own name, only for the annoyed Duke to quickly correct him. Sheepishly, the servant explains that the head butler gave the cute fox a fluffy-sounding name due to her soft appearance. Having heard enough, the Duke dismisses the nervous servant who eagerly flees the room in sheer relief. Following that fateful night, the curious Duke regularly seeks out the mysterious white fox. Sitting quietly in his study, he wonders if the little beast will ever grow afraid of his dark presence. Despite his constant attempts to push the magical creature away, his efforts prove completely futile. Defying his cold demeanor, the brave little fox marches right back into his room holding a metal dish in her mouth. Completely exasperated, the stern Duke questions if she is begging for food and bluntly orders her to go to the kitchen. In a hilarious show of attitude, the sassy white fox drops the metal bowl, letting it clatter loudly onto the floor. She barks defiantly, completely unfazed by the fearsome Duke as a thrilling battle of wills begins to unfold between them. Sweat pours down the chef's face as he trembles in pure terror before his formidable master. Read it back with a faster speed. Carrying the cute white fox, Xenox flatly demands food for his animal companion from the intimidated cook. A beautifully arranged plate of fresh fruits and cooked meat is prepared to appease the royal pet. The white fox barks happily, overjoyed by the delicious meal placed right before her. While Xenox grumpily warns the fox not to demand such favors again, she completely ignores him and eats. Xenox jokingly threatens to turn the small beast into a scarf, though she knows she is far too tiny. Rain pours heavily over the silent castle on a tragic day of remembrance for the former rulers. Xenox stands alone in the quiet gallery, mourning his late parents before their grand portrait. The scene shifts abruptly to a recruiting message, a transitional interlude highlighting the complex world of the noble families. Dark storm clouds gather over the majestic spires of the estate as a grim memory unfolds. Years ago, a panicked guard burst through the door screaming the horrific news of the master's demise. 2 ornate coffins topped with white flowers lay in the dim sanctuary, marking a sudden, brutal tragedy. The servants whispered in horror, spreading rumors about the gruesome fate of the Duke and Duchess. Young Xenox stood frozen in shock, suddenly burdened with the crushing weight of his family's legacy. Consumed by a dark desire for vengeance, his golden eyes flashed with a terrifying, murderous intent. On the verge of losing himself to despair, the young lord was suddenly startled by a gentle touch. Looking down, he found the brave white fox offering him a bright sunflower in her mouth. The magical creature leaped up beside him, refusing to let him wallow in his dark thoughts. Xenox stared in utter disbelief, his cold heart softened by the little beast's fearless warmth. He realized the mysterious white fox was trying to comfort him in his darkest hour. His gloved hand hesitated, deeply moved by a gesture of affection he had never experienced before. He gently petted her head, a rare, tender smile breaking through his stony expression. Xenox teased her about a ridiculous name, deciding she deserved something much better than Fluffy. He affectionately renamed her Shiro, cementing their unspoken bond beneath a flurry of blue flowers. From that fateful day on, having the white fox by his side became a comforting daily routine. But when she suddenly vanished, leaving behind only broken glass, his life instantly turned into a living hell. He plastered search posters all over the capital, desperately refusing to return home in case she came back. 3 painful years passed in agonizing silence as he searched every corner of the kingdom. Back inside the present, the shrunken pup wonders why he is still so desperately seeking his lost companion. In her human form, Laria looks at him with deep sadness, realizing how much he truly needed her. She softly sighs, asking if there is anything else he wants to know about the white beast. Deciding it is too late for heavy questions, Laria bids her tiny companion sweet dreams for the night. Lying in bed, she questions whether Xenox truly missed her or if he only wanted his family heirloom back. Yet she cannot deny that the fierce commander had always been incredibly gentle and kind to her. She remembers how he lovingly dressed her up, resolving to prepare some things for him during his stay. A bright smile returns to Laria's face as she plans a secret shopping trip for the following morning. The dark night fades away as a beautiful, clear blue sky welcomes the dawn of a new day. Golden sunlight bathes the Grand Rohan estate, marking the perfect morning for a stealthy excursion. Dressed in traveling clothes, Loria quietly chats with the pup, warning him about the worries of her family. She knows her protective relatives already dislike Xenox and would react violently if they learned the truth. She shivers at the thought of her father and mother plotting to eliminate the Duke if they ever found out. Sensing her sudden tension, the black wolf pup looks up with sharp, focused golden eyes. Shaking off her fears, Loria giggles happily as she packs her bag and prepares to head out. Bright sunlight illuminates the bustling streets of the city, welcoming the disguised noblewoman. Using a glowing magical circle, Laria teleports herself and her tiny guest directly into the bustling town. Carrying the black pup safely in her leather satchel, she cheerfully asks if he is comfortable. She decides that finding a proper, comfortable pet bag should be their very first priority. Laria happily imagines grooming him with fancy brushes and ribbons, giggling at how adorable he will look. Staring blankly from the bag, the proud commander wonders how his terrifying life has come to this ridiculous point. Determined to find his lost companion, Xenox uses an engagement contract to search the estate but finds absolutely nothing. Under a starry sky, the mysterious white fox looms, casting doubt on whether the Rohan family is hiding her. A sudden jolt of realization shatters the tense silence of his deep thoughts. Sitting in a travel satchel, the proud commander laments being back at square one when Laria speaks to him. Laria halts in the bustling street, worried that her tiny companion is finding the bag too tight. With gentle care, she scoops the small black pup out into the warm morning light. Cradling him close, she rejoices at how soft and warm her tiny passenger is. She softly admits she is simply mimicking how gently he used to carry her years ago. Clutching a cute new shopping bag, she continues her stealthy stroll through the city. Her eyes sparkle as they stumble upon a high-end jewelry store in the bustling city district. Admiring a brilliant red gem, Laria is surprised when the pup boldly offers to buy it. She instantly crushes his pride by reminding the formless Duke that he has no wallet. The silent sky echoes his solution to just charge everything to his massive family estate. A mysterious bystander passes by the Grand City fountain as purchases are easily settled. Suddenly, a booming voice commands them to stop, freezing Laria in absolute terror. Confronted by royal guards, Laria holds her breath as she recognizes a familiar face. Her eyes widen in shock upon realizing the handsome blonde man is the crown prince himself. The blonde prince beams with joy, celebrating their incredibly lucky and sudden encounter. He eagerly approaches Laria, asking if she has any recent news of the missing Duke. The atmosphere grows heavy as the prince brings up Xenox's desperate search. The prince reveals that Xenox's target is Shiro, sending a shockwave through the hiding wolf. The scene pauses briefly for a transitional update from the creative team behind the story. Laria gasps in panic, desperately demanding to know what the prince means. The prince quickly dismisses his companion's worries to keep their conversation private. Leaning in close, the prince whispers a secret as the black pup watches suspiciously from below. Panic mounts as Laria wonders how the royal family could possibly know Xenox's secrets. The prince shrugs off any suspicion, completely unaware that the Duke is right at his feet. He laughs off the absurd idea that this tiny, adorable pup could ever be the fearsome war god. In a hilarious turn, the prince suddenly panics, realizing the tiny beast truly is the missing Duke. Staring up at the towering clock, they discuss the absurd curse that transformed the Duke. Examining him closely, the prince reluctantly admits the pup possesses a wolf's sharp features. The pup growls fiercely, demanding answers about Shiro as the prince tells him to stay calm. The prince recounts a mysterious dream where Xenox was embracing a beautiful white fox. Laria stands completely bewildered by the sudden mention of a prophetic royal dream. The prince explains that having prophetic visions is a mystical trait unique to the royal bloodline. A grand depiction reveals the legendary powers of the fox, wolf, and royal clans. He admits his inherited power of foresight manifests through vague, prophetic dreams. He reveals alarming rumors about illegal smugglers capturing rare, magical beasts in the city. With reports of a captured white fox at today's auction, the determined pup demands its location. Laria worries for his safety, questioning if he should infiltrate the auction in his current state. The prince grins, pointing out that his small, unassuming form is the perfect disguise. Knowing she is the true Shiro, Laria worries Xenox might be led into a trap by a fake. Driven by guilt for his curse, Laria resolves to help the Duke reclaim his true form. The protective wolf pup sternly warns her of the immense danger ahead. Refusing to back down, Laria offers a warm smile and insists they face the danger together. Staring up with blazing golden eyes, the tiny commander prepares for the upcoming battle. Inside a speeding carriage, Laria confidently declares she has devised a perfect strategy. Inside the carriage, Laria looks startled as the prince lays out his bold infiltration plan. The prince explains that smugglers will target a rare black wolf, making him the perfect bait. Terrified of the risks, Laria fiercely protests using her small, fragile companion as live bait. Deep in disguise, Laria cradles the tiny black wolf pup, warning him that navigating this dangerous criminal underworld requires following the prince's lead. Striding forward with quiet determination, their stealthy footsteps echo through the shadowy entrance of the venue. A stern guard blocks their path with a raised spear, demanding to see their official invitation. The prince smoothly steps in to handle the guard, casually demanding to speak with the auctioneer directly. When the guard remains hesitant, the prince confidently warns him of a massive missed opportunity, hinting at the ultra-rare beast they brought. With a theatrical gesture, the prince boasts that their prize is an extraordinary creature never before seen on the continent. He proudly presents Laria holding the pup, revealing it to be the legendary, long-extinct black wolf. The greedy auction manager gasps in absolute shock, instantly recognizing the immense value of the mythical beast. He marvels at the pup's perfect glossy black fur and piercing golden eyes that burn like the sun. The manager remains utterly captivated, stunned to see such a magnificent specimen at such a young age. Dropping to his knees in desperation, the manager eagerly asks the disguised duo for their selling price. Just as the prince begins to negotiate, Loria boldly cuts in and demands an astronomical starting price of 100 million. Prince stands completely dumbfounded by Laria's incredibly aggressive and fearless bargaining tactic. The smug merchant scoffs at her high price, counter-offering 120 million to show how the world works. Unfazed, Loria warns the merchant that he will desperately regret passing up on the pup once he witnesses its incredible intelligence. Prompted by her command, the proud black pup walks forward to show off his abilities. With a highly reluctant sigh, the tiny commander places his paw directly into the prince's open hand. The prince watches in amusement as the highly trained beast easily spins around on command. Loria happily scoops the adorable pup back into her arms, further proving how gentle and tame the legendary wolf is. The merchant breaks into a cold sweat under Laria's intense, unyielding gaze, realizing he is completely outmatched. Outside the grand estate, Loria ruthlessly raises the price even higher to 150 million. Completely cornered, the panicked merchant frantically accepts her extreme terms and begs to finalize the deal. Loria flashes a sweet, victorious smile, knowing her clever strategy has successfully secured their entry. The grand doors open to the bustling main hall, welcoming wealthy guests to the capital's finest rare animal auction. As they walk to their seats, the prince comments on Loria's surprisingly terrifying business sense. The eccentric host takes the stage under a bright spotlight, enthusiastically welcoming the crowd to the bidding war. Sitting in the private box, Loria quietly worries if the real Xenox is doing okay during his infiltration. The prince notes her unusual concern for the fierce commander, while Loria secretly realizes her target Shiro is not here. She decides to hold her tongue, keeping her deep thoughts hidden as the dark auction begins. Meanwhile, heavy footsteps echo through the dark, cold prison cells beneath the auction house. Two patrolling guards discuss a disobedient beast sent to the training room, unaware of a sudden shadow lurking behind them. With a swift, silent blow, one of the guards is instantly knocked unconscious before he can even sound an alarm. Deep in the shadows, the cell's iron bars are violently torn open as a mysterious force escapes captivity. Back in the Grand Theater, the host loudly announces the next exotic creature up for bidding. Loria scans the stage, realizing they are likely saving Xenox's target for the very end of the show. Suddenly, a violent spark of dark energy flashes through her vision, catching Loria completely off guard. Her eyes widen in horror as she senses a familiar, sinister magical energy lingering in the crowd. She spots a mysterious hooded figure in the audience radiating a powerful brainwashing spell. A tense silence fills the room as the unseen magical threat looms over the unsuspecting noble guests. Loria narrows her eyes at the cloaked figure, instantly identifying the dark magic as mind control. As the prince asks what is wrong, Loria sternly tells him to remain quiet so she can focus. Realizing the spell is hidden from normal eyes, Loria wonders who could possibly be casting such forbidden magic. Drawing on her own mystical powers, she prepares a counterspell to track down the culprit's magic. Loria unleashes her magic, shattering the cloaked sorcerer's focus and causing their spell to unravel. She quickly alerts the prince that a dangerous sorcerer is actively using a forbidden spell in the crowd. The prince gasps in confusion as the dark, scattered magical energy begins flowing back toward its source. Grasping the invisible magical thread, Loria vows not to let the mysterious caster escape her grasp. She abruptly stands up and bolts from her seat, leaving the bewildered prince behind. Her footsteps land heavily on the stone floor as she sprints through the narrow corridors of the theater. Sensing the magic unraveling, the mysterious cloaked figure leaps away, desperately fleeing into the dark corridors. White-hot speed lines tear through the darkness as a high-stakes chase reaches its absolute boiling point. Cornered in the shadows, the mysterious red-hooded figure grits his teeth in pure frustration. The sinister sorcerer laments losing the perfect chance to gather his planned sacrifices. As he peeks around a pillar, Loria realizes a dangerous spellcaster has infiltrated the auction. Suddenly, brilliant blue magical chains erupt from the cobblestones to trap the fleeing target. The startled red-hooded sorcerer panics as he realizes a powerful pursuer is right on his heels. He unleashes a barrage of floating red blades, but the brave silver-haired girl stands her ground. The determined Loria summons a massive defensive barrier to deflect the lethal attack. She realizes this dangerous magic perfectly matches the curse left at the Classium estate. The dark sorcerer prepares a forbidden spell as a massive red magic circle surrounds him. Knowing the risks, she quickly checks her pouch of glittering jewels to fuel her next move. With a deafening clash, she charges forward to block his deadly red blade with her barrier. The sorcerer scoffs in irritation, shocking her as she recognizes the deep voice of a middle-aged man. Knowing a prolonged battle favors her enemy, Loria prepares to end this quickly. Channeling her raw power, she focuses her mystical energy to unleash a decisive, crushing blow. She resolves to gather all her magical reserves for a single devastating strike. The dark sorcerer gasps in horror as her overwhelming magical pressure begins to build. In a desperate bid to counter her, he frantically draws a red magic circle to defend himself. She summons glowing blue chains to bind him, demanding to know where he thinks he is going. He scoffs as he exerts his dark power, easily shattering her conjured chains into pieces. To her absolute horror, the sorcerer reveals a sinister red potion and prepares to use it. She watches in sheer disbelief as he pours a thick puddle of blood onto the ground. Talk about a dramatic exit! Menacing pitch-black smoke begins to rise from the pool of spilled blood. The corrosive dark magic sizzles against her leg, sending a jolt of panic through her. Horrified by the massive red magic circle over the city, she realizes he intends to detonate the entire area. She screams in panic, knowing the innocent auction guests are still trapped inside. Pushing past her limits, Loria desperately conjures a massive barrier to stop the explosion. Her catalyst gem cracks under the pressure, channeling an immense surge of magical energy. A blinding shockwave rips across the night sky, neutralizing the threat just in time. As the dust settles, she stands alone on the empty street, wondering if he escaped. Exhausted and panting heavily, she struggles to catch her breath after overexerting her magic. Her glowing blue eyes widen as she processes the terrifying strength of her mysterious opponent. Staring down at her trembling hands, she realizes just how close she came to absolute disaster. Standing alone in the quiet alley, she wonders who that monstrous spellcaster could possibly be. Deep beneath the city, a heavy red gate glows with ominous pulsing energy. Clinging to the wall, the injured sorcerer stumbles down the dark palace stairs. He grits his teeth in agonizing pain, furious that his master plan was ruined. Slapping his fist against the stone wall, he curses his terrible luck in a fit of rage. He wonders how an intruder of such caliber could possibly exist in this city. He suspects that the pure white energy he faced might belong to a legendary foe. He quickly dismisses the thought, believing the cowardly white fox would never act so boldly. Pulling back his hood, the red-haired man burns his cloak, declaring the plan is merely delayed. He steps onto a glowing red teleportation circle, vanishing into thin air. The scene shifts to a grand golden palace hall gleaming with celestial decor. A brown-haired assistant politely greets the arriving leader as he enters the chamber. The red-haired chief of the Sorcery Bureau, Venetian Hashir, listens with a stern expression. Dark magic swirls as they confirm that a dangerous intruder has breached their defenses. The scene transitions briefly to highlight the creative team behind this epic fantasy story. Back inside the main hall, the auctioneer loudly announces the arrival of the final item. Under the bright spotlight, the host dramatically prepares to reveal the grand highlight of the night. The tense operation hits a critical turning point as Laria slips back into the VIP box, relieved the blonde prince doesn't question her brief disappearance. On the brightly lit stage, the flamboyant auctioneer confidently promises the crowd a reveal that will leave them utterly speechless. Murmurs of excitement ripple through the elite crowd as the host hypes up a legendary undiscovered baby beast. The crowd gasps as the host announces the legendary black wolf with golden eyes is up for grabs. Tension peaks under the grand chandelier as the host prepares to declare the massive starting bid. Loria nearly loses her mind in shock when the starting bid opens at an astronomical 200 million. The blonde prince watches with an amused smirk, thoroughly enjoying her sheer panic. With a theatrical flourish, the host commands the stagehands to finally unveil the legendary beast. The prince casually asks about Xenox's terrifying nicknames, sending a shiver of fear down Loria's spine as she remembers his bloodthirsty reputation. The smiling prince confirms that the brutal commander has earned a mountain of horrific titles over the years. The atmosphere turns freezing cold as the prince mentions the specific name that strikes absolute terror into animal smugglers. A vision of pure violence flashes before Loria as she pictures a helpless smuggler being brutally choked. Standing tall in the shadows, Xenox holds a beaten smuggler in a death grip, rightfully earning his title as the Executioner. With a glowing, murderous gaze, the ruthless commander has systematically wiped out every smuggler in the capital just to find Shiro. The cornered smuggler whimpers in absolute despair, realizing he has crossed paths with the devil himself. Panic erupts in the dark halls as the broken smuggler screams in terror, identifying the monster as Grand Duke Clausium. Laria panics, realizing Xenox has transformed back into a human without successfully locating Shiro. Looking at the chaos unfolding below, Laria desperately wonders if her dark premonitions of the future can actually be rewritten. Unbothered by the looming threat, the charming blonde prince flashes a dazzling, confident smile. A trembling guard points his spear at Xenox, desperately screaming at him to halt. Without blinking, Xenox grabs the spearhead with his bare hand and effortlessly snaps the weapon to splinters. The crowd descends into absolute madness as the terrified auctioneer frantically runs for his life. A deafening thunderous roar echoes through the venue, signaling the absolute collapse of the auction. The sweating prince frantically plans his escape from the enraged duke, prompting Laria to dryly question his future emperor credentials. The grand doors fly open as imperial knights burst in, commanding everyone to freeze. The fierce, blue-haired knight leader prepares to execute his orders and shut down the illicit operation. The knight is left dumbfounded as the trembling smugglers practically beg him to throw them into prison. A heavy, bone-chilling step cracks the stone floor, signaling a monstrous presence approaching. Surrounded by a menacing red aura, Xenox steps over the beaten guards like trash.
While the prince fears a bloodbath, Loria realizes she must stop Xenox before he ruins her chance to secure the guest list.
Suddenly, a strange, overwhelming magical pulse triggers a bizarre reaction deep within Loria's soul. A powerful, erratic heartbeat echoes in her mind as an ominous magical energy begins to swirl. To her absolute horror, a glowing blue magical orb manifests, triggering her long-lost fox transformation. Covering her face, Loria suddenly bolts from the VIP box, leaving the prince completely bewildered. Sprinting through the empty corridors, Loria panics as her body begins to shift back into a beast. Realizing her fated future might be completely unavoidable, she frantically searches for a place to hide. With a tiny squeak, Loria's human form vanishes, leaving a fluffy white fox tumbling through the air. Clinging desperately to her clothes, the tiny white fox freezes as a familiar voice calls her name from the shadows. Solek stands frozen in the dark alleyway, utterly stunned by her sudden transformation. Solek gently picks her up, analyzing her perfect fox form and realizing this is no ordinary magical illusion. The fluffy white fox looks up with wide, innocent blue eyes, completely at his mercy. Chibi Solek asks if she can speak, but the tiny beast can only let out a pathetic squeak. Sensing a dangerous presence, Solek quickly ducks behind a tree to hide the tiny fox. Outside, the panicked prince chases after the silent, furious Xenox, begging him to stay calm. Xenox's golden eye narrows as his heightened senses lock onto a familiar scent nearby. The Night Guard leader flinches, instantly sensing the overwhelming pressure radiating from the Duke. With lightning-fast reflexes, the beast commander whips his head toward the dark alleyway. The prince asks what happened, but freezes in shock as Xenox mutters the name of Shiro. Changing his path, Xenox takes a heavy step directly toward the hidden fox's location. Laria's heart stops as the monstrous predator steps closer, her secret about to be exposed. Xenox's heavy footsteps send shivers down Loria's spine as she realizes there is absolutely nowhere left to hide. The story takes a brief creative interlude to showcase the hardworking team behind this epic translation. Sensing immediate mortal peril, the tiny white fox desperately urges Solek to run before they are caught. In a flash of motion, Xenox grips the hilt of a sharp rapier, preparing to strike. Loria's blue eye widens in pure shock as a lethal silver slash slices through the darkness. A massive tree trunk is severed completely by the sheer speed and power of the blow. A giant tree cracks and begins to collapse right behind the stunned Solek. A thunderous crash echoes through the alleyway, turning the tense atmosphere freezing cold. The perfectly clean-cut stump stands as a terrifying demonstration of the commander's monstrous strength. Solek forces a nervous smile, desperately trying to maintain his composure under Xenox's suffocating pressure. In the background, the panicked prince realizes Xenox has somehow swiped his own real sword. Xenox marches forward with the stolen weapon, completely ignoring the prince's bewilderment. The terrified prince screams at Xenox, demanding to know if he has completely lost his mind. Xenox stands directly in front of Solek, pointing the deadly blade right at his throat. A ruthless cold glint shines in the commander's golden eye as he locks onto his target. Xenox remains dead silent, his menacing presence radiating a promise of absolute violence. Held tightly in Solek's arms, the terrified white fox freezes under Xenox's piercing gaze. In a low, chilling voice, the ruthless commander demands Solek release the beast immediately. A heavy, crushing aura of pure magical energy begins to swirl around Xenox's body. Solek tries to play it cool, nervously claiming they have targeted the wrong animal. He holds the fluffy beast even tighter, refusing to back down despite the looming danger. Solek fabricates a blatant lie on the spot, claiming he raised the white fox from a tiny cub. Xenox coldly questions the ridiculous claim, which Solek quickly and desperately tries to confirm. Solek begins to stammer nervously as his flimsy cover story starts to completely fall apart. He hilariously changes his excuse, claiming he was only trying to help the lonely fox make friends. Xenox stares blankly at the absurd justification, completely unamused by the obvious deception. The chibi panel captures the incredibly awkward silence as Solek only digs his hole deeper. Sweating profusely, Solek dramatically argues that the fox has a right to live her own life. Desperate to diffuse the terrifying tension, Solek frantically apologizes and asks if the commander is all right. Laria panics internally, wondering how Xenox recognized her instantly out of countless white foxes. The tense standoff reaches a peak as the Royal Knights watch the dangerous confrontation unfold. Xenox coldly asks if that is truly the end of Solek's pathetic excuses. The terrifying question hangs heavily in the air as Solek trembles in the corner. A blade scrapes against the stone with a lethal screech, signaling that playtime is over. Solek's eyes widen in sheer horror as he realizes there is no talking his way out of this. Solek panics in terror, realizing the monstrous commander fully intends to slaughter him right here. His golden eyes glow with dangerous intensity, promising swift and brutal retribution. Solek clutches the shivering white fox tightly, bracing himself for the commander's fatal strike. Unexpectedly, Xenox freezes mid-step, his eyes widening as he senses a sudden shift. A chilling, mysterious question echoes through the blinding glare, challenging the commander's authority. Seizing the sudden distraction, Soleik pulls out a glowing potion and urges Laria to get ready to run. Realizing they are escaping, a desperate Xenox lunges forward and screams out for Shiro. The prince and his knights watch in stunned silence as the terrifying Duke processes his target's sudden escape. Clutching his head in pure panic, Soleik gasps that he truly believed his life was over. He groans that he must have multiple lives, having used up most of them surviving today's ordeal. Soleik expresses immense relief that he remembered to bring the powerful escape elixir she had gifted him. A terrifying memory of Xenox asking if she fears him flashes in Loria's mind. Looking down, Loria sadly notes that she has never seen such a vulnerable expression on the Duke's face. Soleik's curiosity gets the better of him as he asks when she will return to her human form. The adorable little fox can only let out an embarrassed squeak in response. Looking at her, Soleik realizes why the fearsome Grand Duke is so utterly obsessed with this cute beast. Loria notices his intense gaze and suspiciously wonders if Soleik plans to sell her out for a massive reward. Sensing her distress, Soleik kindly suggests starting with some fresh water to help her recover. Laria panics, realizing she will be in grave danger if she randomly transforms in front of Xenox again. She wonders if the sudden transformation is actually a painful recoil from using excessive magic earlier. Completely overwhelmed by the situation, Loria clutches her dizzy head as her thoughts spin. Suddenly, her fluffy white ears twitch as she feels a bizarre sensation deep within. A blinding blue light suddenly erupts around her as she begins to float in the air. Loria realizes with a jolt of shock that her human form is finally returning. In a spectacular display of ancient magic, her stunning human form is finally restored. Clad in a simple light blue dress, Laria lets out a massive sigh of relief. She stares down, bewildered by how she randomly shifted into a beast and just as quickly returned. Sitting down on the sofa, she reflects that she only ran because the magical fox marble triggered her panic. She shudders thinking about how close she came to being captured by the relentless commander. A wooden mug is suddenly placed on the table, snapping Loria out of her deep thoughts. Soleik smiles warmly, asking if she is ready to finally admit the truth about her secret identity. Loria internally questions how she could possibly live with a man who strikes absolute terror into her heart. Shifting her focus, she realizes she desperately needs Soleik's unique skills to pull off her next move. Loria nods, preparing to explain the entire crazy situation to her trusted ally. Listening intently, Soleik praises her for managing to escape such a deadly situation so cleanly. He asks her how she can bear to live alongside someone who terrifies her so deeply. Soleik questions if she is actually taking the Duke's side, leaving Loria in awkward silence. Changing the subject, Soleik asks what she was doing at the illegal auction house in the first place. Loria explains she was gathering information, noting that valuable treasures are always hidden in the shadows. She gives him a sharp warning glare, commanding him never to betray her secret to anyone. Taking a sip from her mug, she listens as Soleik quickly promises to keep her secret safe. Soleik repeats her words, thoughtfully pondering her interest in gathering illicit information. He notes that finding the information won't be hard, but asks why she needs it so urgently. Laria seriously explains that she is desperately searching for a specific target. She reveals she is hunting down a mysterious individual who wields dangerous, forbidden magic. Sitting in his grand office, a red-haired nobleman broods in deep thought. His piercing red eyes glow with quiet anger as he contemplates his next move. An angry, frustrated voice demands to know the identity of their mysterious adversary. Moments earlier, a sudden cry of pain echoes alongside dripping blood. Wiping blood from his mouth, the brown-haired subordinate frantically reports an emergency. The red-haired lord reacts in disbelief to the sudden shocking news. The subordinate explains that their powerful spell on the Crassium estate was broken. He wonders if the formidable Grand Duke has finally discovered their plot. He reflects on the extreme, life-threatening cost of breaking such forbidden magic. He reasons that an incredibly powerful, unauthorized group must be responsible. The red-haired mastermind remains deeply unsettled by how easily the barrier shattered. A vision of the mysterious silver-haired spellbreaker haunts his thoughts. He sighs heavily as he prepares to write a critical message. He notes the immense physical toll the prolonged spell must have taken. Yet he coldly determines that mere suffering is not nearly enough. He climbs the grand stone stairs, driven by his sinister ambitions. He intensely desires to control the Duke of Crassium like a puppet. He despises the arrogant man who pulls the strings from behind. The red-haired mastermind decides it is time to contact his mysterious allies. He begins drafting a letter, determined to claim the powerful fox marble. Blood drips onto a parchment as he eagerly awaits a reply. A chilling response arrives, confirming that the contact will take action personally. Morning dawns on the mansion as Loria wakes up with a deep sigh. Her brilliant blue eyes reflect a mixture of confusion and lingering exhaustion. Her brown-haired maid arrives carrying a mysterious package from the royal family. The cute paw print bag is left resting silently on the bed. Loria tells herself to stop overthinking and focus on the present. She questions why her body suddenly underwent a magical fox transformation. She wonders if overusing her spiritual power triggered the bizarre shift.
The maid politely knocks and Loria confirms she is fully awake.
When offered breakfast, Loria decides she wants to eat in her room. The disappointed maid reluctantly agrees to bring the food up to her. Suddenly, Loria spots something unexpected and gasps in surprise. She opens her bedroom door, questioning a strange object left outside. She picks up a card containing a simple handwritten apology. Loria immediately recognizes the unique, elegant handwriting on the card. She looks down the corridor to see a silver-haired boy peeking in. The boy watches her with nervous, teary-eyed anxiety, hoping for forgiveness. Changing her mind, Loria decides to eat in the dining room instead. She playfully chides her maid for suggesting she eat in her pajamas. The scene transitions to the beautifully decorated, elegant dining hall. Dressed in a beautiful blue gown, Loria sits quietly at the table. She notes a quiet tension settling over the family gathered around her. The silver-haired man across from her sheepishly averts his gaze. A shiny red apple rests alone on a clean white plate. She asks if the apple is an apology, which he happily confirms. Amused by his genuine regret, Loria smiles and decides to forgive him. Determined to secure a crucial promise, Loria asks the silver-haired young man to guarantee the Grand Duke's safety. The silver-haired youth looks down sadly, admitting he feared she was intentionally keeping her distance. In a comical flashback, Loria and the spectacled man sweat drop over a simple apple apology. He quietly confesses his deep regret for trailing her and secretly administering a dangerous potion. Adjusting his glasses, the silver-haired man reflects deeply on the heavy weight of his past actions. Loria's brilliant blue eyes soften as she listens, processing his sincere confession. She firmly reminds him of his solemn oath never to repeat those dangerous mistakes. A quiet, tense atmosphere fills the grand dining hall as the family gathers around the table. Gently touching her cutlery, Loria's mother abruptly brings up the topic of her upcoming engagement. The elegant silver-haired matriarch clarifies that she is not entirely opposed to the union. However, she points out that the couple has barely spent enough time together to rush things. Understanding her concerns, Loria calmly agrees to stall the arrangement for as long as possible. Hearing her cooperative response, her relieved family members exchange warm, satisfied smiles. The brilliant morning sun bathes the exterior of the sprawling white mansion in a peaceful light. Sitting by candlelight, a long-haired man wearing an eye patch carefully reviews a stack of documents. His piercing green eye narrows in intense concentration as he scans the written lines. Keeping his guard up, the auburn-haired man stares straight ahead with a stern expression. Sitting across from him, Loria reveals that forbidden magic was definitely at play during the incident. Resting his hand on the desk, the eye patch-wearing man asks Loria if she has any leads. Loria recalls the formidable, looming shadow of a middle-aged adversary with a deep, chilling voice. She reasons that the perpetrator likely relied on a rare transformation elixir to mask his identity. Flashing a smug, confident grin, the auburn-haired investigator asks if she wants him to track him down. He proudly asks if she has forgotten his formidable tracking skills. He reassures her that he will stop at nothing to uncover the truth. Picking up a letter, he reads about the terrible, life-altering cost of wielding forbidden arts. Tilting his head back, he sighs heavily under the physical toll of his research. A fleeting memory of a hooded, red-cloaked saboteur peeking from the shadows haunts his mind. He reflects on how exhausting it was to personally infiltrate the chaotic auction house. Brushing his long bangs aside, the eye-patch man struggles to piece the puzzle together. He envisions their mysterious opponent, a sinister figure crowned with a golden skull. He deduces that the culprit deliberately avoids sacrificing his close allies for his dark rituals. He reasons that the mastermind must occupy a highly prestigious position where any sudden disappearance would spark immediate suspicion. Furthermore, the target likely holds a highly visible occupation, making long absences nearly impossible. The complex web of clues begins to tighten as the true identity of their enemy is narrowed down. Standing over his cluttered desk, he gathers the letters to systematically filter his targets. His sharp green eye flares with a mix of calculated brilliance and quiet determination. A painful, soft memory of a young girl clutching a teddy bear flashes before him. He vividly remembers the harrowing night he carried an injured, bleeding child through the dark streets. Staring at his reflection in the glass window, his face darkens with a solemn, heavy burden. Oppressive dark energy swirls as he vows to track down the hidden culprit. A cold breeze sweeps through the room, matching his icy resolve to deliver swift justice. A wave of murderous intent surges within him as he refuses to let the villain escape. Glaring into the darkness, his green eye burns with a deadly promise of absolute vengeance. She reflects on sending an excuse-filled letter to the Grand Duke and the Crown Prince about her sudden departure. Safe inside her grand mansion under the blue sky, she notes with concern that no reply has arrived. With a feather quill in hand, she carefully writes down her secret thoughts on a sheet of paper. Lyria's sweat drops as she vividly imagines a furious Xenox demanding to know who she escaped with. A small cup filled with a whirl amber liquid rests quietly on her desk. Looking out the glass window, the silver-haired girl takes a quiet moment to gather her thoughts. Suddenly, her vibrant blue eye momentarily shifts into a slitted, beast-like pupil. An unsettling wave of dark purple aura returns, triggering a sudden sense of dread. Clutching her silver hair in sudden pain, she groans in deep physical distress. Startling her brown-haired maid, she abruptly stands up from her chair in a panic. Loria gives a series of firm instructions to her blonde-haired companion, who responds with an eager salute. Surrounded by blooming pink roses, the blonde guard loudly declares his absolute obedience to her. The pair arrives at a grand, beautifully decorated magical boutique as the door chimes welcome them. Stepping inside the luxurious shop, they begin their search for rare ingredients. She reminds herself that she completely exhausted her powerful escape elixir during the recent auction chaos. Looking over the shelves, she notes her urgent need for rare replacement ingredients. She spots a single branch of rare blue fire coral sitting inside a glass jar on the counter. Suddenly, a hand clad in a dark red glove reaches out and taps her pale wrist. Loria turns her head in extreme shock, wondering who would dare interrupt her. She is stunned to see Sienna, a beautiful red-haired woman, standing right behind her. Sienna stands elegantly amidst a backdrop of blooming red roses and sparkling lights. Sienna greets her with a smug expression, noting how surprising it is to meet in such a place. Smiling slyly, Sienna demands that Loria yield the blue fire coral, since she claims to have grabbed it first. Loria's blonde guard steps forward defensively, loudly protesting that his lady was the first to claim the item. Guard proudly boasts that his incredible vision missed absolutely nothing. Well, someone is clearly earning a gold star for his high-energy loyalty today. He confidently asserts that Sienna was at least 2 seconds too slow. Sienna's companion, a man in a red military uniform, reacts with intense anger at the guard's remarks. The companion fiercely demands to know what kind of beastkin the guard is, while Loria holds her head in embarrassment. The guard proudly retorts that he is a plains dog with exceptionally sharp eyesight. Ignoring the childish bickering, Loria calmly asks the brown-haired shopkeeper if they have any more blue fire coral in stock. Shopkeeper apologetically explains that it is not harvesting season and more stock won't arrive for 3 months. The shopkeeper scratches his head awkwardly, feeling caught in the middle of a tense dispute. A tense silence settles over the room as both women stare down at the highly coveted item. They both know that this rare ingredient is strictly used for crafting intermediate or higher-level elixirs. Sienna looks at Loria with a mixture of suspicion and mock pity. Sienna internally questions what someone who supposedly cannot brew elixirs plans to do with such a rare ingredient. Loria reflects that only a select few master sorcerers are capable of crafting high-level elixirs. She confidently reveals her secret intent to brew a powerful elixir herself. Sienna is left utterly dumbfounded, asking if Loria actually possesses the skills to brew them. Loria flashes a proud, confident smile as she confirms her abilities. The shopkeeper points out that there are 2 eager buyers but only a single piece of coral left on the shelf. Sienna slyly suggests letting the shopkeeper decide fairly which of them deserves the item. Sweating profusely, the nervous shopkeeper stammers that the person who arrived first should have priority. Loria freezes in disbelief as she locks eyes with her smug rival Sienna, while the nervous shopkeeper sweats profusely between them. Sienna snaps open her ornate red lace fan, attempting to mask her aggressive demands behind elegant high society posturing. Confidently looking down her nose, Sienna boasts that this premium boutique is the only reputable magical supplier around. Standing amidst blooming pink flowers, Sienna elegantly gestures with her fan while bragging about recommending the shop to her elite colleagues. Watching her dramatic display, Loria quietly questions if her dramatic rival really needs to put on such an exhausting show. A sudden downpour of sparkling gold coins fills the air, signaling the absolute power of wealth in this magical dispute. Sienna flashes a brilliantly smug grin as she proudly declares herself as the shopkeeper's ultimate wealthy patron. Loria weeps in comedic despair, realizing her rival has completely dominated the negotiation using the sheer power of money. Standing tall, Loria prepares to reclaim her dignity as she proudly gets ready to make her next graceful move. Seeking to display mock generosity, Sienna offers to return the favor since Loria so kindly yielded the rare fire coral. Smiling slyly, Sienna requests that Loria graciously yield the next rare item they both happen to find. Rodette wipes away tears of absolute adoration, deeply moved by what he mistakenly perceives as Loria's divine generosity. Loria's brilliant blue eyes narrow in sudden concentration as she notices something intriguing on the counter. She watches Sienna collect her purchases, highly suspicious of the specific alchemical recipe her rival is preparing to brew. Scanning the basket, Loria notes a collection of red berries, delicate white lilies, and a glowing blue potion vial. Piecing the clues together, Loria instantly deduces that Sienna is trying to craft a rare elixir to turn hair golden. Sienna freezes in absolute shock, her smug confidence instantly evaporating as her secret plans are laid bare. Sienna's heart races in panic, utterly baffled that Loria figured out her highly complex potion formula just by looking at the ingredients. Glaring at Loria, Sienna desperately tries to process how this supposedly untalented girl could possess such master-level knowledge.
Breaking the heavy silence, Loria boldly and bluntly predicts that Sienna's ambitious potion attempt is destined to fail. But Sienna demands to know why, only for Loria to lecture her that using volcanic herb will ruin the golden hue, leaving her with a muddy, dirty blonde instead. Smiling proudly, Loria walks out of the shop alongside Rodette, leaving a stunned Sienna standing completely speechless. Left alone in the quiet boutique, Sienna stands in frozen silence as Loria's warnings echo heavily in her mind. Clutching her hand in deep frustration, Sienna desperately tries to convince herself that Loria's advanced alchemical logic must be wrong. Surrounded by a surge of dark purple aura and roses, Sienna furiously vows to prove Loria wrong by successfully brewing the potion anyway. As evening falls, the warm orange sunset bathes the city streets in a peaceful, quiet glow. Wrapping a beige traveling cloak around her shoulders, Loria reflects on her successful trip as she prepares for her final errand. Stepping towards her white carriage, Loria instructs Rodette to wait behind, prompting a loud, dramatic protest from her overprotective companion. Loria gently reassures him that her quick trip will only take a moment and requires absolute secrecy. Rodette's inner loyal dog spirit whines comically as he reluctantly reflects on his duty to protect his beloved lady. Chibi Rodette wipes away a tear as he accepts the bag, while Chibi Loria waves goodbye, promising a swift return. Left behind in the golden sunset, Rodette resolves to keep a hypervigilant eye on the bank entrance instead. Loria enters the grand bank building, smiling at Rodette's overprotectiveness and reassuring herself that nothing dangerous could possibly happen. Loria smiles softly under her hood, only for her peaceful thoughts to be shattered by a sudden blood-curdling scream. A band of armed masked robbers bursts into the lobby, drawing their swords and loudly commanding everyone to raise their hands. A tense, fiery atmosphere instantly consumes the grand bank hall as chaos erupts in an unexpected flash. Hearing the commotion from outside, Rodette panics comically, screaming for his lady in absolute terror. Inside, Loria scans the room, noting that while there are only a few visible robbers, the bank guards have been completely neutralized. The terrified hostages raise their hands in fear, confirming Loria's suspicion that the staff outside have already been captured. Hiding behind a pillar, Loria grips a glowing pink magic crystal, calmly assessing her options to avoid drawing unnecessary attention. The lead robber confronts a terrified bank manager, demanding his absolute compliance. Pressing his cold steel sword to the manager's throat, the robber fiercely commands him to open the heavy vault door immediately. Trembling with fear, the helpless manager quickly agrees, walking forward with the robber's blade pressed firmly against his back. Loria watches intensely from the shadows, realizing she must choose her moment to strike very carefully. Suddenly, a powerful, commanding voice rings through the bank lobby, ordering the armed robbers to halt and step back. Click-clacking in elegant high heels, a mysterious figure steps forward, leaving the hostages gasping in sudden shock and hope. Sienna steps into the sparkling light, posing elegantly in her crimson dress as the hostages joyfully celebrate their glamorous savior. Peeking from under her hood, Loria is utterly dumbfounded to run into her dramatic rival twice in one day, wondering if this ridiculous coincidence is fate. Hiding behind a cold stone pillar, Loria quietly watches the high-stakes hostage situation unfold while deciding whether to let Sienna handle the crisis alone. The armed thief stares in absolute bewilderment at Sienna's theatrical entrance, wondering if the flashy noblewoman has completely lost her mind. Enraged by her arrogance, the sword-wielding criminal lunges forward to ruthlessly strike down the defiant girl. With a swift, elegant gesture, Sienna summons a brilliant magical crest, blasting her attacker back with a surge of raw energy. Observing the sudden blast from the shadows, the scarred bandit leader realizes they are dealing with a highly trained sorceress. Brimming with confidence, Sienna demands their immediate surrender, offering the criminals a brief chance to escape heavily accountable charges. The rogue magic user sneers at her mercy, conjuring a dangerous counterspell of his own to crush her resistance. Watching the battle escalate, Loria gasps in sudden alarm upon realizing that the lead bank robber is also a powerful sorcerer. Violent magical currents clash in the center of the hall as Sienna struggles to maintain her defensive barriers against his dark lightning. The oppressive energy of the rogue sorcerer's attack easily pierces through the room, threatening to shatter Sienna's defenses completely. A sudden wave of dread washes over Sienna as the villain flashes a mocking, triumphant grin from beneath his dark hood. Stripped of her defensive magic, Sienna collapses to her knees while her sinister opponent gloats over his effortless victory. The villain mockingly boasts of his superior power as a stunned Sienna desperately demands to know how he neutralized her sorcery. With a sinister grin, the rogue magic user proudly displays a mysterious glowing blue amulet to his defeated victim. Bandit leader boasts of risking his life to steal a legendary nullification necklace from the Ministry of Magic, rendering Sienna completely helpless. Realizing the bandits plan to kidnap Sienna for a massive ransom, Loria clutches her magical bracelet, knowing she must now intervene. Just as the sinister sorcerer prepares to seize his target, a protective shadow falls over the helpless noblewoman. Loria boldly steps into the conflict, highly motivated by the terrifying prospect of losing her hard-earned commission fee. Bewildered by her unexpected savior's sudden appearance, Sienna weakly mutters a name in complete disbelief. Furious at the interruption, the bandit leader fiercely threatens to execute Loria for daring to stand in his way. The rogue sorcerer unleashes a terrifying, roaring elemental dragon of blue lightning to obliterate his new target in a single blow. To the bandit's absolute horror, his devastating spell completely disintegrates before it can even touch Loria. The rogue magic user freezes in sheer panic as he realizes his powerful sorcery has been effortlessly nullified. When the bandit demands to know if she also possesses a nullification artifact, Loria casually dismisses the idea as completely unnecessary. While Laria secretly calculates her next move within his nullification field, the panicked bandit curses his sudden bad luck. Realizing she cannot cast large-scale spells in this restricted space, Loria decides her best strategy is to simply stall for time. Outside the chaotic hall, a terrified nobleman trembles as heavy, commanding footsteps echo loudly down the corridor. The heavy doors burst open, revealing a powerful commander standing in the bright gateway to dominate the battlefield. Glaring into the smoke, the stern, auburn-haired investigator steps forward with a deadly gaze that promises absolute ruin for the criminals.